Hello. Good morning, guys. Good morning. Happy weekend. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I hope you guys are good. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin ará Ọ̀yọ́, ẹ kú ara fẹ́ra kú. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin ọmọ ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́, ẹ kú ara fẹ́ra kú ikú bàbá yèyé o. Ọba ò kú o, ọba wàjà ni o. Gbogbo orílẹ̀-èdè Nàìjíríà, ẹ kú ara fẹ́ra kú. Good morning, everybody. Ẹ kú ara fẹ́ra kú. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin ládéládé, ẹ kú ara fẹ́ra kú. Ọba ò kú, ọba wàjà ni. According to tradition, you don't say a king has died. They don't die, right? They only go to join their ancestors to come back to reincarnate. Yes. Ẹ kú ara fẹ́ra kú ikú bàbá yèyé. Ọmọ Àtìbà, òjò pàṣẹkẹrẹ. Ọmọ tí kú lé ò gbọ́dọ̀ pátárùn kan ò gbọ́dọ̀ ṣe. Alówó bí yèrè. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin ọmọ ìpínlẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́, ẹ kú ara fẹ́ra kú bàbá. Ọba ò kú, ọba wàjà ni. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin blogger burúkú, blogger òfò, blogger sọnù, tẹ́mọ̀ tútùkùtù nípa àwọn bàbá yín. Ẹ má lọ mẹ́nu yín kẹ́ lọ gbé dákẹ́ jẹ́jẹ́. It irritates me when I come across a lot of things, online. Like, I don't get it when people call themselves bloggers. At times in my head, I'm like, really? You think this is all it takes to blog? Just coming out online on Facebook because you are allowed to use camera. Because market dawa lale, ofun gbogbo yin lórí ọ̀fẹ́ kẹ́kọ̀ọ́ tán kẹ́ má lò. And next thing you call yourself a blogger. Blogger my foot. Nonsense. You lack all ethics of that profession. You lack the ethics of that profession. Go and search what it takes to blog. Go and search what it takes to blog and what it means to be blogging. If you really, truly want to call yourself a blogger, I mean, there are ethics to abide with, to follow, to exhibit. You don't just come online and tell people I'm a blogger because you want to be justified for your evil actions. You abuse people, you attack people, you don't even know the state they are. You just come out to say rubbish about people. Imagine this man has been healed, like they said. It's not a good time for the family to be receiving such punch online. He has not offended any one of you personally. You just come online to say rubbish about all these kings, thinking you are using them to fight. Ni control níbi tẹ́ lè yà sí. Ẹ má torí pé fẹ́ bá lágbájá jà bá tẹ̀mọ̀ dùjà. And you think the next thing is to be bashing the people they are close to because you don't have anybody that they can bash. You don't have anybody that makes a meaning to you. You don't have any reputable person around you. And you go out of envy, bashing people that has not done anything to you. I mean, it's so crazy. Ìyẹn àṣírí ẹ̀dá játijàti tó yẹ kán lọ gbé gbogbo yín sáró kan so yín mọ́lẹ̀ lókùn lọ́wọ́ àtẹsẹ̀ kán máa gbẹ́kọ̀ sí yín lẹ́nu yìí tẹ́ máa fi mọ́ bí tẹ́ wà. Rádaràdá rédèrèdè. Ẹ máa lanu yín, ẹ máa sọ̀rọ̀ sọ́ba, sọ̀rọ̀ síjòyè, sọ̀rọ̀ sáwọn tó jù yín lọ, àwọn tó lè ra yín jẹ tán lè pa yín. Tí ẹ mọ̀ state táwọn ẹlòmíì wà. Bóyá àwọn tẹ́ ẹ gbọ́dọ̀ sọ̀rọ̀ sí ni. Bóyá àwọn tẹ́ ẹ gbọ́dọ̀ wí kátikàti sí ni. Look at now. This man has been healed. Kò sẹ́ni tó mọ̀. Bàbá ní bàbá. Ó ti ṣetán láti lọ bá àwọn bàbá ẹ̀, láti lọ bá wọn dámúlẹ̀. Ẹ̀yin kẹ́ wà lórí line. You tarnish people's image. You injure their character, thinking you're blogging, nonsense blog, online. You have the temerity to mention, a whole king, first-class king, just anyhow. Just because you hate so blogger, so person, you feel intimidated by a fellow blogger or by a fellow friend or a fellow woman online. And the next thing will be to be bashing their godfathers. I mean, it's just crazy. It's crazy. That's why I hate to come online these days. Like, I mean, if only you know the implications of the things you're doing. You're just destroying your tomorrow, destroying your future, thinking you're talking. Ẹ̀yin rádaràda ẹni àbáta káfíńrà tó pàdánù tẹ́lẹ̀yìn àjítàn náà wò lórí Facebook. Ayin, wo ìgbẹ̀yìn bá tán ló máa ń dolóòkú àdá. Ó tó súnmọ́ fún gbogbo yín tán. Àtẹ̀yìn olùgbèjà ọ̀sán gangan. Tí ẹ pojú yín náà ló ṣe ńgbà tí gbogbo ẹ̀ ń dàrú. Ní gbọ́ pẹ́kẹ́ lẹ́nu yín. Ẹ̀yin ọmọ àlè dédé tẹ́ ń fọwọ́ sí jíwèé lé àwọn bàbá tó bí yín. Ayin. Gbogbo lọ́balọ́ba kí ó ti ní ẹ̀fà wọn lẹ̀ má jà fáwọn ọmọ. Ibi tá a máa wà rí. Tí kan nù yín máa ti forí gbé pè. Tẹ́ máa rí repercussion kan tẹ́ ń ṣe. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, watching people bash people that are far older than them, you know, for doing nothing to them personally. Is it not crazy? I mean, it's crazy. You want to talk, you want to be recognized, you think the only way to get recognized is by coming online to bash someone that has not done anything wrong to you. Good morning. Good morning, everyone, as you join. Good morning, guys. When I heard about the news in the midnight, I'm just like, oh, really? And this, I mean, this is the man some people just come online to bash? An old man? I mean, it's so sickening. It's so sickening. So very sickening. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ èèyàn làṣìṣe ló sì máa ti máa kọsẹ̀ kọ ẹnu. Ẹ máa lẹ fẹ́ báyàn kan jẹ, ẹ máa pọ̀ bá ní stupid, ẹ máa pọ̀ bá ní kinní kan, ẹ máa lanu gbàgàgbàgà, rádaràdá rédèrèdè. Wọ́n ní náni náni. Orí ìkànnì yìí nìkan mo ti rí àwọn ọmọ àlè, àwọn olórí burúkú ọmọ Yorùbá. Wọ́n máa fọwọ́ sí jíwèé lé bàbá wọn sọ̀rọ̀ sí àwọn ọba anyhow. Ẹlòmíì alanu òṣì gbàgà á sọ̀rọ̀ nǹkan tí ó lè sọ sí bàbá títí ẹ̀ ń lé torí pé ó wà lórí social media. Kò tẹ̀ sẹ́ni tó máa mú ẹ, kò sẹ́ni tó máa dírẹ́sì, wọ́n máa kọ̀kọ́ kúkọ̀. I see a lot of things that bothers me. I mean, it's so very disrespectful to watch the way our people, especially Yoruba people, talk down on our Yoruba kings. I mean, there should be limits. Ẹ bá fẹ́ sọ̀rọ̀ játijáti, ṣàṣàlẹ̀ yìí tí ò ti bọ́ ba rínú gbogbo yín round tútùkùtù nípa àwọn bàbá yìí because we are just quiet. Oh. Ilẹ̀ tó mú bọ́ lóru yín náà táyé gbogbo yín á bàjẹ́ tẹ́ máa fẹnu ara yín ba yí ara yín jẹ. Ẹ̀yin ọba lọ́bọ̀ ló máa parẹ́ ọwọ́ ara yín báyìí máa fi ṣera yín àtẹnu ara yín. Ẹnu ara yín báyìí ni. Ṣé báwọn kan ló ṣe lánàá náà ṣe irú ẹ̀ mọ́. Ètò máa fi jófinú ẹ̀yin tẹ̀ṣẹ̀ dé yìí náà ó máa wà dáadáa confirmed ẹ̀ collect níjọ́ tẹ́ rò. Ẹ sọ̀rọ̀ sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ níyàwó. Ojú yín ni ọba ti ń fẹ́ yàwó 40. Kí ló kan bàbá ńlá kú bàbá yín tó bàbá fẹ́ yàwó 100. Ẹ̀yin ò gbọ́ pọ̀ bá fi ń ṣọlá ni. Ẹ̀yin wèrè àṣìírí dédé yìí. Ẹ̀yin lẹ́mọ̀ ọ̀rọ̀ sọ sọ́ba lẹ́mọ̀ sọ kínní. Àwọn ọba ṣá ní kẹ́ máa fi nú lẹ̀ kẹ́ máa fi gbálẹ̀. Ọba ni. Máa búlì gbogbo àwọn bàbá oníbàbá àwọn bàbá tán ní ti yín rò. Ẹ̀wẹ̀ yìí tẹ́ ń búlì tẹ́ ń bú ń sìn. Ẹni ẹlẹ́ni ó wà lórí ìdùbúlẹ̀ àìsàn. Ó ń dágbére fáyé. Ó ń ṣàdúrà fáwọn ọmọ ẹ̀. Èèyàn tó gbélé ayé tó jẹ́ fódìdí 53 years ẹ̀yin á wà ń bẹ́ẹ̀ máa bẹnu ẹ̀tẹ́ ẹ̀yin ọmọ àlè olórí burúkú ọmọlẹ̀ Yorùbá ẹ ṣe ń búlù àwọn bàbá tó kù náà ẹ ní límìtì kò sẹ́ni tẹ́ lè sọ̀rọ̀ sí kò sẹ́ni tẹ́ lè gbẹnu jágajàgẹ ẹnu òfò ẹnu bànújẹ́ tí òfin ní dá fáwọn bàbá ńlá kó bàbá àwọn tó bí yín ibi tó bá wà ẹ máa fi sọ̀rọ̀ sọ́ba ilẹ̀ mọ̀ bóyá ọba kan ń dó lágbájá ó ń pẹ́ kan tó dóyà yín mo bù ẹ̀yin olóṣì ọmọ àlè játijàti yìí. I read a lot of things that really gets me irritated, as in, Ibi by now I'm about the thing I'm where they thought one Oba has one wife. How can one Oba have a wife? Obas don't have one wife. Anyway, ẹ̀yin ni kẹ́ sọ jí ẹ ṣí orí yín sí nǹkan tó ń pè ní tradition. Okay? Wake up. Especially first class monarch, the seat compelled them to bring them in many, in some, in plenty. It is a mandatory that they have to meet up with. In case you people don't know, you all of you don't know anything about tradition. You just open your mouth and talk. Some of these men, they don't even. It's not what they want, but it's what they are compelled. The seat compel them to do it. Tradition expect them to bring women in many. That's what you people don't know. They can't marry one. They can't marry two. They cannot marry 5. The more women they bring, the more luck that very town believe the king is bringing them. They are expanding their coast. That is the meaning. They are expanding their coast. It means in future, such lineage will never be forgotten, because the more children they bring to that throne, the more their lineage will continue to reign. When there's no more male child, you don't know the meaning of that, because all of you lack knowledge. Kawe, oloshinye mon kokon pa history, ko ma gbe ori buruku wa tori Facebook ti fún yín camera lọ́fẹ̀ẹ́, lanu gbaga. Sọ̀rọ̀ sáwọn baba ńlá àwọn baba tó bí yín dànù. Anyhow, ọba tó fẹ́ yàwó kan tó bí ọmọ àrẹ̀mọ kan, mọ̀ túmọ̀ ẹni. Bí kọ́kọ́ bá ṣàrẹ̀mọ yẹn, ìrun ẹ̀ ò tún jẹ mọ́ ló ń jẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀. So they have to bring in women as many as they can in their lifetime to expand that coast. That is the meaning. All of you just look at all these men and you start talking rubbish. You don't like what they do. You don't like their legacy. Who the fuck are you to judge them? Who the fuck are all of you? Who the fuck are your fathers and your mothers to tell them what to do and what not to do? Ẹ̀yin ò mọ̀ túmọ̀ àṣà, mọ̀ túmọ̀ ìṣe, kọ́ lanu yín gbága ṣá, wá sọ̀rọ̀, sọ játijàti ọ̀rọ̀. Nígbà tẹ́ mọ̀ nǹkan tẹ́ ń sọ, ọ̀nà ń pè yàn lọ́ba, ẹ̀yin béèrè. We thought he has one wife. We thought she's just going to marry. Why demand to like women like this? Why will you not like women? It is part of that throne, part of their seat, part of tradition that they have to bring them in many. And that is why it is a woman's choice to sit or not. If you want to do them like that, these are, serial polygamies. If it's your choice, they don't force anybody. They dash them women safe. Because you people are stupid, you lack knowledge, you lack education, you lack wisdom. You don't know what you're talking about. You just open your mouth, be basket mouth to know you won't open mouth again, they talk. You open your mouth and spill rubbish online about all these kings. You know about so when you're talking about decency, about women, or about whatever, you don't even apply. It's not applicable to them. And the fact that they have them in many does not even make them not decent anyway. It doesn't make them indecent. It's part of their stool. It's part of tradition. So when you want to castigate all these babas, you should check your brain. Go back to history and check. Check. They are kings. That's why they are kings. I hate it when I read something about a blog, concerning these traditional rulers. And I go to comment section and, it baffles me that people still live in the dark. You still live like, in the old days. Your thinking is so archaic. It's so archaic, so, uncivilized. This is 2022, for God's sake. You people should wake up. Go back to history. Read about them. Some of them has 200 wives, just like we heard in the Bible about a lot of people in the Bible as well. We heard that in the Bible, is in the Quran, about many, men of God, head of religions, getting married to so many women. It's just to enlarge their coast, so that anytime they grow old and they go, they have enough children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren to keep that name going, so that their name will never perish in the land of the living. It is a taboo for any Oba to have, one woman or few. Some of them do, but then it has implication. So when the reign finishes and such Oba does not have a male child to continue, or they have very few male children in their lineage, it means their reign finish there. It finishes automatically. No crown will come to such family again. So they always increase the number of male children in their lineage, so that their reign will continue forever. It rotates. A lot of you don't even know what you are saying. You just come online and you open your mouth and you talk nonsense. I have read a lot of things. Some people are saying, who is going to be marrying all these young kings, all these young wives that are laughing left? Life continues. It's not where we want to fixate our thinking or our mind right now, because they are young. If they feel like remarrying, somebody said no, they have to remain in the palace. They don't have to remain in the palace. When a new king's emerge, it will be the king and the lady's choice if he wants to take over them or not. They don't force them. Do you know how many wives they will be willing to give the new king? Thousands of wives. This one will dash king wife. They dash them wives. They dash them. They dash them. Some people dash themselves even to kings. Have you not seen people that will be like their children's age and they'll just go and betroth herself to the king? That my father, take me home. I don't mean father as in blood. They approach the king and say, I wish to dash myself to you. And some of them, their parents dash them to the king. So this is what we have to learn. This is what we have to learn. Some of you, you don't even you don't know anything about tradition. You just come online and you write rubbish. Ọba kì í dédé gbẹ́sẹ̀ lé ìyàwó. Ọba kì í dédé sọ pé àwọn olórí bàbá àná òun gbẹ́sẹ̀ lé gbogbo wọn. It must be a consensual thing, you know, mutual agreement. If they say no, they can't force them. And if they do not wish to leave the palace, they can say, my lord, you have us all. Continue to reign over us. Because they are too young and they are not willing to leave. So they live with the new king. Their choice. But no king will force them. No king will say, I don't know. They don't do it. Do you know how many new wives that have been in queue before this new one we imagine? Say, we don't know who the new one is going to be, but then it's just the tradition. That's how it rotates. So before you will go and be running your mouth to pay, I want you to check the currency. Talo ma wa fe won bai, kilo ma wa ṣẹlẹ̀ sí wọn bai. Kò sí nǹkan kan tó fẹ́ ṣẹlẹ̀ sí wọn, life goes on fún wọn ni. Some of Alaafin's wives are here. Omo is here. Ìyá mẹ́ta is here. They are not divorced. Only kí lorúkọ ètò wàhálà Èkó, Bádírà àti Àánú. Bóyá àwọn yẹn náà, a lot of them are still with him till tomorrow. So it will be their choice if they want to leave the palace or not. But you know, as tradition, you know, they have to move everything him out for the new king to move in. It's just like somebody moving out of the White House. You know, he needs to take everything he's out for the new president to come in. The same, you know, thing with Nigerian system. They have to move out of the villa. If they don't move Abacha out of the villa, how will Babangida come in? If they don't move this one out of with the next one coming, when we don't have two villa, we only have one. It's only one palace. They can come and make a bit of change and revamp things, renovate, but palace remains palace. They can join the old palace with the new one. If the new one feels, okay, I want to change the look of things, I want to add here, A and B here, it is okay. It is your money. Because they all know that they don't reign for short years, you know. They reign for so many years. So they're going to enjoy whatever it is that they built for, you know, decades of years. And after that, the new king will come in. If another king comes in, if that one too feels like, let me make a little change here and there. I mean, that's how it is. So, and so are the wives and whoever, you know, part of the family, àwọn ọba tó lọ lọ́hùn, àwọn míì ṣì máa ń gbé nínú palace, they extend it to the back. Some of them, they leave the old building for the, you know, there are some extended family that they don't have anywhere to go after the reign of their father or whoever. So there are so many ancestors, you know, families that still lives in palace of, you know, a new king that is reigning. Nǹkan tó ń pè láyé ọlọ́ba nìyẹn. But àwọn mú àlè ṣe àwọn social media blogger àwọn yẹn ló máa ń irritate me jù pé you just come online and you talk anyhow because you don't know what it's called tradition. Just like bíjẹ́ máa ń sọ fún wọn ni wọ́n léyàn palace mo ní palace ò ń ṣe bí tán ti ń léyàn kò sí ọba palace ilé wèrè náà máa ń pe ààfin. Ó gba ọ̀lẹ, ó gbolówó, ó gbọlọ́rọ̀, ọba kì í léyàn láàfin. Kódà kẹ́ni yẹn má dá ọba ò lè léyàn láàfin. Nǹkan tó ń pè ní ọba nígbà tí ó ṣe pé after pé ẹni yẹn commit grievous offence. Ọba ń léyàn. Ọba kì í kọ̀yàwó. Àfi tó bá yẹ pé commit grievous offence. Those are the things I expect people to come out and educate. You don't just fall for all the social media's nonsense, ranting, crying, backing. How can an illiterate be feeding you people that calls yourself, you know, literate? False information and you are buying it. I hate it when people approach me and say, Abike, is it true? We heard this. I mean, it irritates me. I'm like, can't you use your brain? Don't you know anything about history? Don't you know about Yoruba? I hate it when Yoruba people are asking me about things that they should have learned about. We learned GNS in school. When we were in school, we learned GNS. I said GNS, okay? There's what we call Yoruba history. So how can you be a Yoruba person and you don't even know anything about your culture? Is it not crazy? That's why there's creation of social media. You go on the internet, you need to start to surf around and learn things about your culture, your tradition. I mean, it's our own heritage. It's the only thing they can trace us back to, the only identity that we have. Our culture is the only identity. So how come you, even though we live abroad, you can't even say something about your culture that educates, Westerners? We live here. So when a Westerner approach you and say, oh, we have this, and this about your culture, your tradition, what do you explain to them? We know everything here. You call a British person, you call an American person and ask them about their own indigenous history. You will see them explaining it to you. But you, what do you have to say about your own? You don't know. When your fellow Nigerian will come online and tell you rubbish, and your brain is so shallow and dull to a point you embrace such nonsense. Illiterate everywhere. Even educated illiterate. And uneducated illiterate, training educated person abroad. I laugh when I see some things online. It makes me Emma Kankon. Emma Kankon. Emma Kankon. She koko gope Emma Kankon. Knowledge is power. Knowledge, it is power. Learn to learn. Iko she kwe ni baka we ni koloni la kaye. Emma ma bere awon koko baba ni oba se kini kan waja nsin yin o. Se gbogbo awon iya to wa nbe yen nsin yin. Àwọn ìyá àgbàlagbà tí bàbá ti fẹ́. Tó bá ti tásìkò, because they have to, you see, as much as they will be doing preparation for his burial. This is a great monarch, first class monarch. As much as they will be planning his final burial right, they are at the same time planning to bring in the new king, because that seat is not one to be left opened for too long. No. Oyomesi must always have a ruler. When one passes away to join his ancestor, the incoming one, own latitude wa legbe, lẹ́sẹ̀kẹsẹ̀ láti gorí ìtẹ́ yẹn. Àwọn ìtẹ́ yẹn kì í ṣe ìtẹ́ tí yàn file. And likewise, when a woman leaves them, they cannot leave the seat opened. Even when their wife moves out, another one must come in immediately. It is not a seat that must be left unoccupied. Let me tell you. According to tradition, it is not a seat that must be left unoccupied. And that's why you see a lot of things happen to so many of our fathers. Some of them, when a woman leaves them and you suddenly see, another woman emerge, not because at times they even wish, it's because somebody just have to occupy that seat immediately. They see it as a big sign of disrespect for any of their wife's seat, of the queen's seat. To be empty. They have to fill it up, because the impression and the belief is there are so many of them in the palace there. So when one decides not to sit again, you must immediately put another on that seat. That indicates to your people that you have them in abundance, in many, because that is what is expected of them. It is expectation of their people of them. They don't want any king that will come in with one wife, in case you don't know. It's part of their tradition, no? So, yeah, if you are a one woman, person to your husband, and your husband has this, he has ambition of becoming a king, it's part of the things you should be prepared for. You must look at Olori Sekinat Hadiza. You see that she was not prepared to have Hadiza. But Oba Said was, one of the expectations of his people, of the tradition of Eko, of that Egushi kingdom, is that they must bring them in. In fact, some of them that has one today, it still doesn't mean they will not add to that one. No. Some of the new kings, all these new kings, when you see them parade one wife about, it's because they are still respecting the wife in the next, in another 1 year, 2, 3, 4, 5 down the line. Whether they like it or not, they must accept it. They must collect. New one must come in with them. You see, it is a sign of weakling to their people. They are showing sign of weakling. It's a weakling sign that Anoba cannot, occupy the queenly seat with as many as possible. Their people see it as weakling, even though they are not willing to. They don't have a choice but to do it, because it is part of the seat expectation. You see, you hardly see an Oba Tomasope, Oba Conti. They make them, they have to have money. They must be loaded, loaded enough to take care of their families. That's why they wanted to have extended families. Extended, not small. So when I look at some of you, when you want to pass insult, learn about our culture and tradition before you talk. Because when you don't learn about it and you just come out to talk, only fools like you with shallow brain will be hailing you and will be writing comments. Don't mind him. Ashewo, he can dogidope. Why can he not dogidope? It's part of their thing. He can marry anybody anyhow. If he choose to marry Omoton Kiri pure water, so be it. So be it. If he choose to go and marry Queen of Kinotinkwe, so be it. If he says any ton tan kon legbe titi yen lohun ohun, so be it. If he says ìyàwó ilé ni ohun ohun, so be it. Ìyàwó ilé ẹni tó ti tó lọ́kọ. Àwẹ̀ ta nìyẹn ta ló ń kọjá lọ àyàwó bọ̀dá Smiler ni. Ẹ gbàgbà tó wà lórí ẹ̀ wọlé ẹ lọ sọ fún Smiler pé mo ti gbẹ́sẹ̀ lé ìyàwó ẹ̀. So be it. You don't get it. So it's social media ló máa mú yín tẹ́ kàn máa ràn ní ẹnu yín nonsense. Abagbayawo níyàwó, ó fi ọmọ 18 years yo, ó fi ọmọ 21 years yo, ó fẹ́ aṣẹ́wó, ó fẹ́ na ẹni bá wù wọ́n lọ lè fẹ́. Wo ẹni bá wù wọ́n mọ nǹkan tó ń jẹ́ àṣà àti ṣe wa ni. Èyí tó bá jẹ́ ọmọ Yíbò nù yín bẹ́ẹ̀ bá mọ nǹkan tẹ́ ń sọ ẹ padà lọ́lù yín kẹ́ lọ focus láwọn ego etiti yín. Culture àti tradition yín làwa náà bá yín wò lórí television, òun làwa náà ń lọ là ń kà. Títí wá ní ìyẹn náà, so ẹ gbà bẹ́ẹ̀. Ẹ gbà bẹ́ẹ̀ títí wá nìyẹn, culture àti tradition Yorùbá ni. Báwa náà ṣe bá nìyẹn láyé. Bó dẹ̀ ṣe máa wà títí ayérayé nìyẹn. Ìran bá fi ń jọlá ní gbogbo ẹ̀yin social media nonsense yìí. Ẹ lọ gbẹ́nu yín pamọ́. Kẹ́yé tutukutu, kẹ́yé wíwíkúwí nípa àwọn bàbá yẹn, fi àwọn bàbá yẹn sílẹ̀. Ẹ fi wọ́n lẹ̀, ẹjọ́ nísinmi. Ẹyẹ ni àwọn ẹni ẹlẹ́ni lára. Ẹjọ́ nísinmi jàre lọ wá bí jókòó sí ẹ lọ ṣọ́ ayé àwọn bàbá tó bí yín àtàwọn ìyá yín náà díẹ̀ kẹ́ gbé story wọn wá fún wa kẹ́ jẹ́ ká gbọ́ jàre. Ẹ jẹ́ ká nísinmi. Kẹ́ kó ṣì lọ dànù. Ayé ọba kan lẹ fẹ́ máa ṣọ́. Ọba ń jayé bó ṣe wùn ni, kò bá jẹ́ ń jẹkújẹ kò sẹ́ni máa mọ ìgbà tó máa nà. Ìjọba ò lè ná. Ẹ̀yin tẹ́dẹ̀ ń tútùkùtù ìmélòó nu yín lẹ ti tútùkùtù títí lẹ ti mẹ́gbàá lẹ lọ nà nù ilé ẹ̀. Ẹ̀yin ọmọ ọ̀ràn kíran téèyàn kan ò dẹ̀ bí náà lẹ máa ń tútùkùtù jù. Ẹ̀yin ọmọ tẹ́ wọlé tínú ilé yín ò ṣe rí tí ọ̀dẹ̀ àwọn bàbá tó bí yín ò ṣe náwó sí, òun náà lẹ máa ń tútùkùtù. Ẹ máa sọ nonsense nípa àwọn bàbá wọ̀nyí. I've been reading a lot online, I'm just like, wow, what is it? Èèyàn kúta ẹ̀kọ́ tí ronú ta ló máa gbẹ́sẹ̀ lé ìyàwó ẹ̀, ta ló máa jẹ́ kìnìkan gbogbo. Ó ń pẹ́. Ṣé bàbá tí yín wá ya ni tó fẹ́ gbẹ́sẹ̀ lé ìyàwó ọba ni? Ẹ lọ jókòó ara yín jẹ́jẹ́ jọ. Ẹ fà wọn ní bàbá lẹ eléyìí ti lọ báyìí ó ti èyí tán tún máa gbé dé nsìn. Aláàfin tuntun tó dénú láti kékeré ní ó ti mọ ọ̀rọ̀ yàwó jọ dandan ni. Ó bá jẹ́ ìyàwó kan péré ló ní sí yẹn tí mo jẹ́ ó ti fún nìyẹn. Wọ́n máa rọ́ wọn wọlé ni. Yírọ́ wọlé ní gidi gan ni. Tán máa tò sẹ́nu ọ̀nà. Látẹ̀ní lọ́nsà àwọn ọkùnrin àwọn ọ̀ṣọ́rọ̀ adélébọ̀ wọ́n ti máa múra fún wọn. Ẹni tó bá lọ́mọbìnrin tó fine tó jẹ́ ọmọ kékeré gbogbo wọn ti máa bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní múra fún wọn. Bó bá ṣe ń gbé ọba tuntun dé làwọn ẹni wọ̀nyí máa kó àwọn olórí tuntun yìí lọ sí ààfin. Wọ́n lọ fi wọn fọkọ nìyí fún bàbá aláàfin tuntun. Ayé lọ bá ń jẹ kú. Ayé ló yẹ ká tàn dá ó jẹ. Yọ̀tọ̀ mi máa látàn dá ṣe. Oṣù yóò dá máma bí mọ̀ wá o. Àwọn bàbá òun jayé o. Wọ́n jayé yẹn lájẹ pẹ́pẹ́pẹ́ ni. Nígbà tó ní kinní kan lára ọ̀rọ̀ òun tó jẹ́ pé ó ní pure water yín ló wá ń sọ pé ara ń rò òun nítorí kíni. Àwọn ọmọ tán fẹ́ yí wọn lára gbogbo wọn wà ní London bọ́n ṣe wà yìí. Ìyá mẹ́ta ọmọ wọn wà ní London tó ń gbádùn ayé wọn. Bádírà tó lọ náà ó gbádùn ayé ẹ̀ náà ní kó tó lọ. Òun náà gbádùn ayé ara àwọn àyò bàbá ni. So ẹ rò pé bóyá oògùn náà wá fi ń mú wọn ni. Ẹ lọ jókòó jẹ́jẹ́. Ṣé béèyàn làwọn nọ́ọ̀nù tán ní kán má dóko rárá àwọn sister. Nígbà yẹn máa complain. Kí náà máa fi dán àwọn ọmọ ìbáyìí kí n ti yín. Wọn bá fi kárò dí wọn. Ó pè wọn bẹ́ẹ̀ náà ṣe lọ jókòó síbẹ̀ náà. Èwo ń ti yín. lágbájá fẹ́ lágbájá wọ́n lè dànù wọ́n lè náà nìyẹn àkọọ́lẹ̀ ti dúró ẹni tí òjọba ṣéyàwó kọ ni àbọ́kọ̀ kọ nonsense játijàti lẹ kò fẹ́ máa wí lẹ́nu ara yín játijàti ẹ̀sẹ̀ ọba kan kinní kan ṣọba nìkan ló ń ṣẹlẹ̀ sí ni ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ tí òjọba náà ń ṣẹlẹ̀ social media breakfast ìsọnù breakfast wèrè táwọn yálàyà yín jẹ kú yín tẹ́ ẹ fẹ́ máa ṣáàfù yín ẹ̀yin nìkan náà lẹ́mọ̀ọ́dá jẹ nǹkan yín nulẹ̀ yín ẹni tó hùn kó jẹ́ ló fẹ́ jẹ́ ẹni tó hùn kó jẹ́ àjòkó ara ẹ̀ jẹ́jẹ́ ayé ọlọ́ba ni kò sí nǹkan tíyàn lè ṣe sí ọba òun fi obìnrin kíkó ṣe kinní kíyàn níyàn fẹ́ complain kò ṣe complain ó máa dà pé ọjà tán fi wọ̀n ẹ́ kó tó rà á ni bọ́ba kan bá sọ fún ẹ sí pé lẹ́yìn ẹ o mi ò ní fẹ́ yàwó mi o àfi bí wọ̀gán fún ara ẹ bá fẹ́ tán ra ẹ bó bá jẹ́ wèrè ní ẹnìkan lókù ló máa bìlíìfù torí nǹkan tó ń pè láyé ọlọ́ba ayé àjẹtán ni àṣeyíhùn ni wọ́n òun náà ṣe ń pè wọ́n nígbàkejì aláṣẹ ìkejì òrìṣà lẹ́yìn òrìṣà òkè ọlọ́run ọba àwọn náà ló kàn ọba ló kàn lẹ́yìn ọlọ́run ọba ló kàn òun ni gbogbo náà ṣe máa ń sọ pé lẹ́yìn ọlọ́run àfikàn tí òun àwọn lókù làwọn ò ní ṣe it's part of our culture and tradition kò sí nǹkan tá a lè ṣe sí ọlọ́run sọ pé ọjọ́ bàbá ti pé nìyẹn àmọ́ ẹ jẹ́ ká máa respect díẹ̀díẹ̀ ẹ máa fi respect díẹ̀díẹ̀ sínú orúkọ wọn ẹ máa pọ́n wọn lé ẹ máa pọ́n wọn lé ẹ máa pọ́n wọn lé nígbà táwa ń sẹ́kẹ́ ọlọ́njà fọba because ibi ìkọ́ta nínà nìyẹn ara àwọn ìṣẹ̀ṣe wa ni ilé làbọ̀ sí mi oko èèyàn kì í fọwọ́ sí jíwèé lé bàbá ẹ̀ kó tún wá ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ fẹ́ wá máa fọwọ́ ọ̀tún pè lọ́jọ́ iwájú ẹ lè fọwọ́ sí jíwèé lé bàbá yín ẹ bú gbogbo àwọn tó yẹ kán jẹ́ titi yín ẹ ti fẹnu ẹ ti fi túnú àṣírí wọn kẹ máa fẹnu kẹ máa fi ṣátá èèyàn ẹ ti fẹnu ṣátá gbogbo àwọn yìí tó yẹ kán jẹ́ ti yín nígbà tẹ bá fẹnu ṣátá gbogbo wọn tán ṣọba Benin lẹ fẹ́ pè lọ́ba yín ni àbí ọba Yíbò àbí ọba ilẹ̀ Haúsá gbogbo àwọn Haúsá ń ṣe ránkàdédé ẹ wo ọba tó jẹ lánàá ní tán yọ kúrò ọba Emir Lamido Sanusi títí di ọlá tí àwọn èèyàn bá lọ kí ránkàdédé ní orí ìkúnlẹ̀ ní sísojú dé bí ó ṣe jẹ́ pé ó ti kúrò ńbẹ̀ yẹn tó ó ti kúrò ńbẹ̀ tí ò jọba yẹn mọ́ tán bá lọ kí ní pálásì ló sì kọ́ fún rẹ̀ níbi tó ń gbé lẹ́kọ̀ọ́ nínú Ìkòyí pálásì sì ni tí wọ́n bá lọ kí bó ṣe jẹ́ pé wọ́n yọ kúrò tó ìyẹn Emir Sanusi Lamido torí ìkúnlẹ̀ lórí ìkúnlẹ̀ ránkàdédé ní ìkìtì tí ọba òun ni gbogbo àwọn èèyàn ẹ̀ sì ń kí because kì í ṣe ọba àná lọ́dọ̀ títí wọn ọba sì ni even though wọ́n fọ̀tẹ̀ àti rìkíṣí yọ ọba sì ni di ọ̀la kò sí ẹni tán máa bí ire nínú gbogbo wọn tán máa lọ gbé náà wojú ẹ̀ anyhow tí ò ní jẹ gbà àfẹ̀yìn ọmọ alẹ́lẹ̀ Yorùbá náà ni èyàn onítùkùtù ẹ tẹ́ pé gbogbo yín ẹ ti kọ́kọ́ bú ọba lọ́ra àyáwádọ́lá tán ẹlẹ́ǹgbèjà ọba ẹ tẹ́ pé tán bá trace history yín náà gbogbo yín lẹ ti ní nǹkan burúkú tẹ́ ti sọ sọ́ba ẹ wá dédé ẹrù páwọn ọba yẹn go ọmọ yín gbogbo yín pátá gbogbo òṣì tẹ́ ṣe ló ti dí ọwọ́ wọn ni gbogbo wọn kàn ń wò yín pé ẹ̀yin ọmọ alẹ́lẹ̀ Yorùbá jàtijàti ẹ̀yin kan ti fi orí adé ṣépè fún gbogbo yín tẹ́ mọ̀ ọba kan ò ṣe eré sẹ́yìn lẹ́fẹ́ bá wọn pàṣẹ wọn yín lẹ́fẹ́ bá wọn ṣe rí ibi tán ṣe dé yẹn yín lẹ́fẹ́ kọ́ wọn ẹ ti kọ́ àwọn tó bí yín tẹ́fẹ́ kọ́ àwọn tó bí ọba ẹ má jẹ́ fọbalẹ̀ kan máa jáyé wọn lọ jẹ́jẹ́ ẹ máa fẹnu bà gbogbo ilẹ̀ Yorùbá jẹ́ ẹ máa fẹnu tútùkùtù kẹ máa sọ nǹkan tí ò yẹ sí wọn bọ́dọ̀lá tọ́tọ́ kẹ wá sọ pé ẹ nílé tán bá nílé yín dàkẹ́ nílé ọ̀dọ̀ àwọn bàbá tẹ̀ ń bú lójoojúmọ́ àwọn ọba tẹ̀ ń wọ́ nílẹ̀ tẹ̀ ń pè ní stupid tẹ̀ ń pè ní fucking stupid pé máa sọ̀rọ̀ fún wọn tẹ máa dúró sórí láì tẹ máa dẹ́yìn ẹ̀yin fẹ́ bá yàn jà nẹ́sìn ni pé kẹ máa pe àwọn ọba ní stupid kẹ pè wọ́n lórúkọ kẹ larúkọ mọ́ wọn lórí kẹ wọ́ wọn ẹ wá tí wàá sọ pé bẹ́ẹ̀ nílé yín nílé o identity rárá because major part of identity yín làwọn ọlọ́ba dé tẹ bá fẹ́ gbọ́ ọba kọ̀ọ̀kan ló jẹ ní orílẹ̀ èdè ẹ̀ Ghana wọ́n ní ọba wọn ó ti di Ghana mélòó àwọn Ghanaian mélòó lẹ ti rí online tí wọ́n wá ń bú ọba wọn kàn máa sọ pé ọba wọn làwọn gbé wáyìí mélòó lẹ ti rí Benin tó ń sọ̀rọ̀ ọba wọn ní Benin ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ mọ̀ pé àwọn ọba wọn náà ń bá wọn tó ń ṣe epo ṣe ni àwọn tó ń ṣe po àwọn Jonathan àwọn ọba wọn bá ṣe ọba Àdúrà ṣe 3 tó ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ jẹ yìí sìn tó ṣẹ̀ jẹ ọba of kí lorúkọ èyí tó ṣẹ̀ jẹ of Warri Olú of Warri ṣé bẹ́ẹ̀ rí pẹ̀lú gbogbo àwọn Goodluck Jonathan ṣé bó lọ bá àwọn president ó ń lọ bá àwọn past president wọ́n hold meeting ẹ̀yin rí àwọn ọmọ ìlú wọn kankan kó bọ́ta kan wá sọ̀sọ̀kúsọ sí Olú of Warri ni àbí kí wọ́n sọ sí ọba of Benin ẹ̀yin tí Yorùbá yìí náà ni ẹ̀yin tí Yorùbá yìí ní ìkọjá ààyè àìlẹ́kọ̀ọ́ játijàti ẹ̀yin ọmọ ọ̀ràn kírun tí nǹkan kan ò bí yín ẹ máa dó sórí láyẹn lọ́ba stupid ọba yẹn náà ni wọ́n á ti rí pé àrùn wèrè wà lára yín tó bá tún yẹ ẹ̀ tún gbé wọn ẹ̀ tún lẹ̀ ń celebrate wọn ẹ rò pé gbogbo ìtẹ́ ṣe sẹ́yìn ayé ò rí yín ni abẹ́ rò pé ayé fọ́jú ni abẹ́ rò pé àwọn ọba gan ìmí inú wọn ti gbé lọ àwọn ọba míì ti ṣépè fún yín wọ́n ti fi ọwọ́ gbá orí báyìí adé orí wọn wọ́n ti fi sọ̀rọ̀ òdì sínú ayé gbogbo yín bọ́ba bá ń ṣẹ̀yàn èèyàn rọra máa ń lọ́n lo èèyàn ọ̀nà àṣegbé náà máa ń ṣe most times pàápàá kódà kan ṣẹ̀ àṣegbé ni Ọlọ́run má jà lùgbàre wọn tẹ́ bá ti lùgbàre wọn tó bá ti jẹ́ pé ó wá ṣẹ̀ sọ́dọ̀ yín nìyẹn ẹ rọra máa lọ. When I was in school, we went on tourism in Ghana. We went to the palace first, Ashanti Kingdom. Yes, so you don't ever see them disrespect their king. You see how the Ghanaians respect their kings? You see how other African countries, how they respect their king? You need to go and see. Àwọn ọba Kenya gbogbo wọn, ẹ lọ wo bí wọ́n ṣe ń ṣe. Ẹ lọ wo bí wọ́n ṣe ń gbé àwọn ọba wọn gẹ̀gẹ̀gẹ̀gẹ̀gẹ̀gẹ̀. Ẹ lọ wo. You don't see them do this to their kings. Only in Yoruba land. Ẹ sọ̀rọ̀ játijàti sọ́ba. Ẹ kọ̀kọ̀ kúkọ tí ò yẹ sọ́ba. Ẹ máa tútù kùtù. Ẹ bú ọba títí. Ẹni ẹlẹ́ ń jayé ni. Réni wèrè olòṣìwò lẹ́ ń réni tẹ́ ń sọ̀rọ̀ sọ́ba. Ẹ̀yin olóbùkú tí ò ní dá fáwọn tó bí yín. Ẹ̀yin olòṣì. I mean, it's just annoying. Yàtọ̀ sí pé àwọn bàbá yìí ti dàgbà kùjẹ́kùjẹ́. I mean, wọ́n fọmọdé joyè. Ipò àgbàlagbà ni wọ́n gbé wọn sí. Olórí ìlú ni wọ́n. Bàbá ni wọ́n pè wọ́n. Ẹ buyì fún gbogbo wọn kárí. Ẹ buyì fún wọn. Díọlá tí máa wo kí lórúkọ Emperor Rashidi bàbá Olúwo yẹn. I still have my reservation. You never see me ever say anything bad about him. It's all those baba that she even do away with most of àwọn ọmọ ọ̀ràn kíran yìí. Ẹ fẹnu yín tútù kùtù sí wọn tán. Ó bá dẹ̀ dọ̀la tẹ́ bá lọ opportunity láti súnmọ́ wọn. Irọ́ lẹ pa ẹ fẹ́ súnmọ́ wọn náà ni. Wọ́n bá láwọn like yín tán so mọ́ yín gbogbo nǹkan tẹ́ ń fẹnu ṣátà yìí pátá lẹ máa ṣe. Gbogbo àwọn tẹ́ ń fẹnu ṣátà yìí pátá lẹ máa ṣe. Sọ́tàn ẹ lọ́ba ń fẹ́ lágbájá ọba fẹ́ tàmẹ̀dù. Ẹni tó bá wọ ọba lọ́ba máa fẹ́ kó bá píkì aṣẹ́wó láti mọ́tẹ́ẹ̀lì. Ṣé bó rí ìyá ẹ̀ tó decent lẹ̀ tó lóhun òfẹ́ tó ní aṣẹ́wó yẹn lòun like bẹ́ẹ̀. Kí wá ní ẹ̀dẹ̀ èkìtì tí yín. Kó bá lọ́mọ tó ń tẹ̀pà lẹ́gbẹ̀ẹ́ títì lóhun òun ayé ọlọ́ba náà ni kò sí nǹkan tó kànyàn. Kó bá ní pásítọ̀ lòun fẹ́fẹ́. Bó bá wọn pásítọ̀ aṣọ yẹ́sì bí ó sì wọn aṣọ no choice pásítọ̀ ni láti fẹ́ kò kànyàn. Kó bá ní lágbájá kan lòun fẹ́fẹ́ ohun wọn bẹ́ẹ̀ ni wọ́n ṣe sọ yẹ́sì. Bó bá wà bí kí ó bá lòun àfàbí kí ó fàbí kẹ́niyẹn kò sí nǹkan kan tẹ́ fẹ́ ṣe sí. Àìgbọ́fà là ń wò kí fàkùn ò sí ń parakẹ̀. Kí wá ní wàhálà gbogbo òṣì orí social media me I just laugh tí n bá gbọ́ òpòkúgbọ̀. Àìmọye àwọn bàbá yẹn tèmi fún ara mi máa ń fancy. Mo máa ń fi pé kí n tẹ lọ fẹ́ra mi fún wọn kó tẹ àbábẹ́ tí ẹ take me all. Oh, good morning, Auntie Sheol. How are you? Are you back in town? From your world cruise? Thank you, Mommy Seki Abiodun, for the star. God bless you, ma. Thank you for blessing me with star this early morning. God bless you too. Àdúrà yín á gbà. Ọlọ́run á jẹ́ kẹ́mi ṣìkàwẹ̀. Ayọ̀ la fi bẹ̀rẹ̀. Alhamdulillah la máa fi parí ẹ̀. Lágbára Ọlọ́run. I mean, it's just, I met Baba Aláàfin. I met him a few times. The last time I saw him was during my Kabiesi's coronation anniversary some years back. I followed him to Ibadan. We went together, you know, from Ife, and I met Baba Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́. Oh my God, I was mesmerized at his speech. I mean, Baba Aláàfin is he is a well of wisdom. I swear to God. I have never had any opportunity, to be that close to him. But on this day, I went with Kabesi Oni. And, many of us like that from Ife, we went with him. I think that was 2020, around November. Yes, around November, around the time that they batted Tadenika or thereabouts. There were too many things happening in the palace then. Too many celebrations. So we went and I met Alafi and I was seated, very close to him. And the way he was talking, when it was time for us to depart, for me to go, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go, as in he is an institute. The man is a great philosopher. No, he was a philosopher, full of wisdom. I didn't want to leave him because I was just wondering that can this generation be as smart, as intelligent, as blessed as this old generation? Because social media has messed up a whole lot of things for us. Things that we would have learned, gathered, and used, as our own personal museum, our own personal library, through them. They are institutes. We should gather wisdom. We should gather knowledge. We can get educated by sitting with them for an hour alone. It is a blessing. So I felt very blessed because Sultan of Sokoto was there. Alafin was there. We had their again. Okay, them Said, Olegushi, and all of them were there, those new generation. But then I prefer to sit with this old man because even when they crack joke, he educates you. When they crack joke, you will have something to take home. So I like when I'm with them. When you're seated with them, there will always be something to take home. And you know me when I'm out there, all I do is smile. I curtsy, I smile, and I take note of everything they say. So Baba said a lot of things. You wouldn't believe that the MC, I think we had Uncle Bisi Olatilo was the MC that day. Yes, it was Uncle Bisi Olatilo. And who else? And yeah, Uncle Bisi Olatilo and one other person again were the one that anchored the program. And one of the MC made an historical mistake. They were actually giving record of something that's got to do with history. And the moment they said the Babala Afin got up from his seat, he said, no. He said, that is a lie. He said it was not the year you quoted. This is the year it happened. Even Kabiesi, me and, Oni and all of them, my fathers that we came together from Ife, they were all there. We couldn't argue it. He corrected them on the spot. He said, no, you gave a wrong record of history. He said, this is how it happened on so day, at so time, at so location. I was educated within that short period. I was blessed because I don't know how I could have argued that if I were to be in the midst of this, of today's generation, and they told me what is not, if that man was not there that day. He corrected them and he told them, you know what? He said, I am history myself. So I regard him as history. He is history. He is not gone. He lives on. His legacy lives on forever. For people who do not like him, that's their headache. He has done nothing wrong to us. I personally love him. All these, old men, they have lived a fulfilled life at 83. And I pray to God to give me such longevity. When you want to cast aspersion at people, you should pray for you to have such longevity, not to ridicule them, not crucify their good deeds. Don't look at the side that you don't like about them. If it is the womanizing part of them that you don't like, that is your headache, because the womanizing part of their lives is part of the throne expectation. They have to enlarge their coast and build their clan. They have to widen it so that when they pass on, they will have enough generation, for their name not to be ever erased. Imagine if they don't have as many women as, their life expectancy. Some of them will have just one male child or two male child. An accident will happen or whatever. Life, unexpected things. And it will take the lives of these children. And if they don't have enough, who else will now be king to carry the name of, their lineage name on in the history of Yoruba land? And that is how it should be. So they have to expand. Let me tell you, they have to. It's a must. nǹkan tó fẹ́ lẹ Yorùbá, nǹkan tó ṣe gbé wọn síbẹ̀ torí ọkùnrin tó dá gánjá ni wọ́n ń gbé wá. So the more male children, the happier their people and the lineage and their family will be. That we have people, that will succeed us tomorrow. It doesn't mean immediately. Remember, at times you rotate. Even when the crown rotates to another family. I mean, the one tí ọba ìsìn bá bí, ó ti lè pass on. But ọmọ tóun bá tún bí, ìyẹn ọmọkùnrin yẹn, the more male children he has, the more opportunity it will be for the crown to rotate back to their own lineage. Because if there's no male child, who are they going to give? Is it female child that bears another person's name? Of course not. Ara nǹkan tí àwọn obìnrin tán jẹ ní history in the past tí wọ́n ṣe jẹ nìyẹn, because there was no presence of a male child. And since they erased it, no female can ever be on your fifth again. No female will ever be Aláàfin in all your history again, ever again. And that is why they are telling them, gone are the days they want to stick to one wife. They give them as many wives as possible so that such will not reoccur in the history of Yoruba land, because they don't regard a woman king as a king. They don't, I mean, their reign was not a pleasant one, whereby males have to bow to them. And they say, no, they will not allow it in Yoruba land anymore. So therefore, all our male king must produce as many male children as possible. Some of them will have 40, 30. You know how many Oba Oyekon children are here today? Bayo Oyekon is here. His brothers are here. There are a lot of Oyekon descendants here in London. If at the end of the day, one tomorrow comes now and some of them have passed on, you see, they will pick their children or their children's children that bears Oyekon from a male child, not a female child. Even people that use compound name, they don't allow it anymore. If you are a female child, now probably the only child of a king, and you are a female, gone are the days they will say when you have a male child, your male child can come and sit on the throne. No. If your father do not produce enough male children, then the crown goes to the next family. So that's why you see all this Baba, they bring in as many women as possible. Bó bá jẹ́ aṣẹ́wó lóhùn wọn kò kàn yín, kò bá jẹ́ ètò ń tẹ̀pà lórí títì kò kàn yín, kò bá sì jẹ́ Facebook speaker kò kàn yín. Ẹ mọ̀ wulẹ̀ ẹ gbójú. Bó bá jẹ́ orí Facebook làwọn bàbá wọn ti rí ọmọ tó wù wọ́n. Ọmọ yìí mọ̀ wọ́n mí o, ó lè ní nǹkan tán rí lára rẹ̀ tán sí ọ̀pá. This is an uncommon, skill. This is an uncommon, gift, talent, whatever it is. Oh, she possesses an uncommon whatever. Kò bá jẹ́ lórí títí ó lè jẹ́ beauty rẹ̀ náà ló wá striking. Wọ́n fẹ́ náà ni kò sí nǹkan tẹ́sẹ̀ sí. Ẹ̀yin kò mọ́ grumble ṣáà ni. Mo dẹ̀ ti sọ fún yín, ìran ọba kan kì í kọ́ ìyàwó àti ìyàwó tó bá fẹ́ lọ. Ìyàwó tó bá fẹ́ lọ wọn kì í so mọ́lẹ̀, ó lè lọ. Because bí ẹyọ kan bá lọ, ẹgbẹgbẹ̀rún rú ẹ̀ ń bẹ láàfin. Wọ́n ń bẹ láàfin tó jẹ́ ara wọn nǹkan tí bàbá possess, tí wọ́n máa ń bùn ọba nígbàkígbà. Ojoojúmọ́ náà wá fi ń fún ọba níyàwó. Ẹlòmíì á mú àkọ́bí ẹ̀ lẹ́yìn láti lù wọn. Á rí pọ́mọ yìí dára bí egbin. Á dẹ̀ mú lọ sí palace. Wọ́n á sì tẹ̀ before bàbá wọn ní pé àwọn tí mọ̀mọ́ yìí dé bàbá. Àwọn fẹ́ fi ta yín lọ́rẹ ni. Kí ni wọ́n fẹ́ ṣe sí? Ẹ̀bùn ni. Ẹ máa pọ́n bàbá yẹn máa ní òde ẹ mú wọlé lọ. Ìmí inú wọn má ti ẹ̀kọ́ dà wọ́n sí palace náà ni, kò sí nǹkan tó máa ṣe sí pé ẹ mú wọlé. Tó bá ya jọ́kanjọ́kan ara bàbá rẹ̀ sí, á rántí pé wọ́n fún mi ìyàwó jọ báyìí. Kò sí big deal. So, let me read this out to you. This is chronological history of the Aláàfin of the Oyo Empire, dated from 1210 to date. Written by Ayomide Akinbode. The Aláàfin was an absolute king. His word was law. That was what I said earlier on. They said his words was law. He had the power of life and death. He is Ikú Baba Yèyé Aláṣẹ Èkejì Òrìṣà, the Almighty, the ruler and companion of the gods. Ikú Baba Yèyé bí mo ṣe ń ka kíní yẹn máa send the love to him. Below are the kings who had ruled one of the greatest empire in history. In 1210, Ọ̀rànyàn, which is Ọ̀rànmíyàn, Ọ̀yọ́-Ilé was founded. Ọ̀rànmíyàn was the first king and the founder of the Yoruba Empire. of the Oyo. Sorry, Oromiyan was the first king and the founder of the Oyo Empire. He was the son of Oduduwa. Oromiyan was a very brave and warlike king. He was said to have headed his brothers, other Yoruba kings, on an abortive expedition to the east to avenge the death of their father. After quarreling at a place called Igangan, the brothers dispersed and Oromiyan went ahead to found the city of Oyo, known as Oyo Alaafin. There are two accounts of his death. Some said he went further east, leaving his son Ajaka in charge of Oyo and stopping at a town called Oko, from where he could not proceed and so died and was buried there. The second account seems more plausible. It says that Oromiyan left for Ile-Ife, the land of his father, leaving Ajaka to rule as regent at Oyo. Having stayed in Ile-Ife longer than necessary, the kingmakers made Ajaka king in Oyo. On returning, Oromiyan heard Kakaki at the border. Kakaki is only played for the music. It's like a flute. You know the Kakaki that they carry about. The flute, you know, that they carry. That's Kakaki Oba Tomalon Lunye. He immediately returned to Ile-Ife when he heard the sound, where he eventually died and was buried. An obelisk called Okpa Oromiyan was erected at the place where he was buried and is still there to this day. In 1242, Ajaka was a calm and gentle king. Unlike his father, he was a peaceful disposition, loved animal husbandry and encouraged it. Being too mild to be warlike, and with the provincial kings encroaching on Oyo, he was deposed and replaced by his fearless and violent brother Shongo. He went to Igboho, where he remained in retirement for 7 years. After the death of Shongo, he returned to the throne. In 1252, Shongo, he was the stepbrother of Ajaka. Unlike his brother, he was a wild and warlike disposition, and he had a fiery temper. He had a habit of emitting fire and smoke out of his mouth, by which he greatly increased the dread his subjects had of him. His mother was the daughter of Elemkwe of Nupe king, who formed an alliance with Oroyan by giving him his daughter to wife. Shongo defeated many of the other Yoruba kings and expanded the Oyo kingdom. His 7 years of reign was marked by his restlessness. He fought many battles and was fond of making charms. He was said to have the knowledge of some preparation by which he could attract lightning. He eventually became tyrannical and was asked to abdicate by the kingmakers and the senior chiefs. Rather than abdicating, he hanged himself on a sheer butter tree. His brother Ajaka was summoned to return to the throne. You see, this is the Oyo history. Ajaka in 1259 century. Ajaka remains the only Alaafin to rule twice. In 1277 century now, Aganju Shola, he was Ajaka's son. He liked taming wild animals. He is said to have kept a leopard. His reign was long and prosperous. He liked aesthetics and he greatly beautified the palace. Towards the end of his reign, he waged war on a king close by for refusing to give him his daughter as bride. The king and his allies were defeated and captured by Aganju and the bride, whose name was Iyanyu. Iyanyu was forcibly taken by Aganju Shola. One of the messy scandals of his reign occurred when his son had intercourse with his Iyanyu, his wife, and was summarily executed. Did you hear that? Even his son had sex with his wife, and he was summarily executed. In 1340, there was another Alaafin called Kori. Oshogbo and Ede town were founded during his reign. Kori was the son of Aganju by his captured bride. Did you hear? Kori was the son of Aganju by his captured bride, Iyanyu. When he was still a child, his mother ruled as regent. It was during Kori's time that Timi was sent to Ede, and that is how Timi of Ede came by. It was during Kori's time that Timi was sent to Ede to fight for the Ijesha. Timi became too powerful for the king and made himself king at Ede. Hence, the title of Timi of Ede, Gbonka, was sent to Ede to capture Timi. After Timi was defeated, the king, fearing the rise of a more powerful enemy, decided to kill Gbonka. After the failure of the assassination, the king committed suicide. So you see, this is history. And some people say, oh, our Atara Ede, you don't even know how Ede came by. You don't know your first king. You don't know any history about. So this is how we should be learning about history. So in 1401, they had Oluwaso. Oluwaso was another Oba Totujeloyo. Oluwaso Kori's son was a handsome prince. His reign was long and peaceful. He was wise and had many wives and children. He also built 54 palaces for the most influential princes during his reign. Olofin led the Aworis to present-day Lagos. So, you know, Aláàfin, ẹgbọ́ bó ṣe extend the reign here, lọ sọ́dọ̀ àwọn Àwórì lélẹ́yìí o. You know, there are some kingdoms, some territories that belongs to the Ooni of Ife. And there are so many kingdoms that belongs to Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́. So, you know, during those times now, I'm saying this now out of that article that was sent to me. You know, during those days, the more territory you are able to win, the wider your this thing is, your coast. The more territories you are able to win, the more wars, the wider your territories will become, until there is a more powerful person that will win you. If not, your reign will become so long, and you know your clan will be wide, your coast will be enlarged. So now, from how Oluwaso extended his reign to Olofin, the Aworis, till present date, he was the son of an Ota woman. Ota woman gave birth to him, a woman from Ota. His mother tried to introduce Ifa oracle to the Oyo people. The Oyo people rejected her advice and she left the town. She eventually settled in a town called Ado, where the people accepted her ideas. During Onigbogi's reign, a war broke out and the king of Nupe invaded Oyo and sacked the capital. The king fled to the land of the Ibariba and died there. And now in 1542, we had Ofiran. If you are there, let me see your thumbs up if you are listening to me. Let me see how many people are listening to this history. In 1542, we had Ofiran. Shaki was founded under Ofiran's reign. His mother was an Ibariba woman. The Ibariba started ill-treating the refugees and the king set out for Oyo. Ifa spread to the Oyo people at this time. Remember, a woman from Songo from Ota, first introduced the Ifa and they refused her. But now the Ifa has now eventually spread to Oyo people at this time. The refugees camped at a place called Kusu. There the king died before they could move. The next 4 kings ruled from a town called Igboho. Igboho, Tamangbo, Igboho, Osha. You know all these historical names. They are actually affiliated to history and, you know, the past of our forefathers and, you know, how history was made. So, they are part of history. You know about this Sunday Igboho now, and this is how it came by. So, in 1550, Egungun Ojo, this Aláàfin founded Igboho after the Nupe had occupied Oyo-Ile. So you see, at a point, the Nupe people actually occupied Oyo-Ile. You know, they always wage war at territories, and if they are able to capture the territory, it becomes theirs, and they start to reign there. You know, according to the history that I read in school, that's how, you know, we were taught the things they told us about history. And it's still same till date. You know, there are still some territories that are unoccupied. That's why you see that there are some remote villages that you hear that there are still war. because all these kings are still trying to take over those territories. Emma wo àwọn border kan wà tẹ́ pé wọ́n fẹ́ gbà mọ́ títí wọn. Oh, it's part of my kingdom, it's part of your kingdom, it's part ọ̀sìn bára wọn jà. And if they are able to kill themselves, they take over the territory, because the moment it becomes, obaless, when there's no traditional ruler there anymore, ẹni tó bá win war yẹn, òun ló máa gbé àwọn èèyàn wá, wọ́n á tẹ̀dó síbẹ̀, and so be it. It becomes part of their territory. But because of ọ̀làjú tó ti wà nísìn, because of civilization, kò sẹ́ni tó fẹ́ practice gbogbo nǹkan, but ó sì ń ṣẹlẹ̀ láwọn ibìkan. Ẹgbẹ́ àwọn ọba tán ni wọ́n para wọn, wọ́n sunra wọn lápá, wọ́n jó àwọn míì nínú àwọn ọba ara wọn ló lọ pa àwọn ọba ṣe gbọ́, nítorí wọ́n fẹ́ take over territory yẹn ni, wọ́n fẹ́ gbà mọ́ territory wọn. Anyway, this Egungun Ojo, the Aláàfin that founded Igboho after the Nupe had occupied Oyo-Ile, he built Igboho, known as Oyo Igboho, and made it the new capital of Oyo. Beside that, nothing remarkable happened in his reign. So the only thing that Egungun Ojo did was to build Igboho, that is called Oyo Igboho. And aside that, he did not do anything that is significant, during his reign. And so the history moved on to 1554 to 1562 to Orompoto. Orompoto was the first and only female Aláàfin of Oyo. I said it earlier on, pé àwọn obìnrin ti jẹ́rí pé ìdí nìyẹn tí each ọba ṣe gbọ́dọ̀ níyàwó rẹpẹtẹ, because wọn ò fẹ́ kí obìnrin tún ever tún jẹ ní Ọ̀yọ́ Ilé àti nílé Ifẹ̀ mọ́. Obìnrin ti jẹ́ Ọọ̀ni of Ifẹ̀ rí. Obìnrin ti jẹ́ Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́ rí, if you trace history. But wọn ò fẹ́ kó ṣẹlẹ̀ mọ́, ni wọ́n ṣe máa sọ fún each ọba tó bá ti jẹ́ pé bring in as many wives as possible to bear you male children, most especially male children. And so therefore, tí crown yẹn bá máa rotate lọ sí ilé ibòmíì padà, at least àwọn ọmọ ẹ kódà you see the fact that pé ọba bí ọmọkùnrin ilẹ̀ kò mí pé ọmọkùnrin tó bá bí ló máa jẹ ọba. That is one mistake all of us will keep doing. If somebody has a male child, it does not mean pé ọmọ yẹn gangan ló máa jẹ ọba. For example, tí Adé bá fẹ́ rotate ní ìdílé kan, let's assume this is Lagos now. Kò sí ọba tó jẹ́ ń bẹ̀ lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ tó bá jẹ́ pé ọba yẹn ní àbúrò àbí ẹ̀gbọ́n ọkùnrin táwọn náà bímọ ọkùnrin. Ó lè jẹ́ pé ọ̀dọ̀ títí ẹ ní àsìkò tí wọ́n wà yìí, òun ni Adé ṣí sí pé kí Adé mú ìwọ. You see, for Ọ̀yọ́ and Ile-Ife Empire, they are very big, monarch. And throne rotates. The fact that one ọba jẹ lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ báyìí kò mí pé tí throne bá máa padà wá, ọmọ ọba yẹn ló máa jẹ. Ẹ jẹ́ kí n educate yín bẹ̀ yẹn. No. If there are 5 or 6 ruling house, Adé yẹn láti rotate lọ sí next ruling house, and the next ruling house, and the next ruling house, before he comes back to you. Àwọn tó bí ọmọ yẹn lẹ́gàn lè má sí láyé mọ́. Okay, if we trace the history of our father now in Ife, it was not his dad that was Ojaja 1. It could be centuries back. Ní ẹni tó jẹ Ojaja 1 yẹn ti jẹ. Go and trace history. And when the throne will rotate back, it comes back to their own ruling house. And Owaba, the male child, to Banlebai. By the time it goes round again, it could be in another 300 years. It could be in another 200 years. So for all of us that always say rubbish, you don't even know what it means. It may not even be in our own presence or the presence of our children. Again, not to maturi next kini to ma jáde ní orúkọ yẹn family yẹn. Ó lè jẹ́ ọmọ ọkùnrin tán bílẹ̀ sí ní ìsìn ló máa kàn. Ó lè má jẹ́ ọmọ báyìí gangan. Ó lè jẹ́ ẹ̀gbọ́n títí wọn àbí àbúrò títí wọn ọkùnrin, àwọn ọmọ títí ẹ̀ ni Adé yẹn máa rotate padà sí ọ̀dọ̀ wọn. Tẹ́ bá fẹ́ gbọ́. Ifá ni wọ́n ń dà láwọn bí eléyìí, àwọn eléyìí ò ń ṣe màgòmágó. Ó lè jẹ́ pé ọmọ ẹ̀gbọ́n ẹ̀ tóun náà bá bí ọkùnrin. Ó lè jẹ́ pé ọmọ àbúrò ẹ̀ tóun náà bá, the fact pé ọba yìí bí ọmọkùnrin kò mí pé òun ló máa jẹ. tó bá máa rotate padà as long as tí ò ń ṣe òun nìkan ni ọkùnrin tí bàbá ẹ̀ bí, tó bá jẹ́ pé ó ní ẹ̀gbọ́n níwájú ó láwọn àbúrò ọkùnrin lẹ́yìn, ó lè jẹ́ ọmọ táwọn yẹn bá bílẹ̀ ní adé yẹn máa tún rotate padà. Kò mí ní pé ọba tó ń jẹ lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ ìtorí pé ó bí ọkùnrin ọmọ ẹ̀ láti jẹ, tó bá ní lọ́ọ̀kì ló máa padà sọ́dọ̀ ọmọ títí ẹ̀. But tí ọmọ ẹ̀gbọ́n ẹ̀ àbí ọmọ àbúrò ẹ̀ tó bá jẹ́ pọ́dọ̀ wọn náà ló já sí, bí wọ́n ṣe ń pè wọ́n ní kinní kan 2 kinní kan 3 because same surname ni. He will only say he was my uncle, he was my grandfather, he was my great-great-grandfather that was Adéyẹmí 1 àbí Adéyẹmí 2 àbí kinní kan, bó ṣe máa ń tò nìyẹn because same surname ni. Ẹ̀gbọ́n bàbá tèmi ọmọ títí wọn ló jẹ ní ayé ìgbà yẹn. But nítorí pé same surname ni wọ́n, bàbá ẹ̀ ló máa pè because they are their ancestors. And wọ́n believe pé àwọn reincarnate ni. They have to come back to reign. So that is one thing we have to learn. So when you people fight for a male child, you have to know knowledge. You have to have knowledge of what you are saying. Okay? It does not necessarily mean pé ọmọkùnrin tẹ́ ẹ bílẹ̀ yìí ló máa jẹ́. No. Kò ń ṣe ojú àwa generation yìí. Mo ṣe rí àwọn monarch méjì yẹn. Kò ń ṣe nǹkan tó máa ń ṣẹlẹ̀ in 50 years back to the same family. Mbà. Bàbá tó wọ Àjàyí ń sìn yìí. Dandan kọ́ ni kó jẹ́ ọmọ títí ẹ̀ àfi tán bá rotate ẹ̀ lọ títí tí wọ́n rí ọmọkùnrin. Dandan kọ́ ni kó jẹ́ ọmọ títí ẹ̀. Ó lè jẹ́ ọmọ àwọn tán ti jẹ kan bí 300 BC sẹ́yìn. Kò yẹ bí 200 bí 500 láti lọ rotate padà lọ bá wọn because àwọn family yẹn ṣì wà alive, and that is why they encourage as many male children as possible during their reign. Because the more male children they bring, female children will not produce anybody that will answer their name. They will only advise them to be bringing in more male children. And the more wives, the more possibility of that. Do you understand? So let's be educated. When we talk, à ń láti mọ nǹkan tá à ń sọ. À ń láti mọ nǹkan tá à ń sọ. Ó lè má jẹ́ ìran yìí mọ́. Gbogbo nǹkan tá à ń sọ, ọmọọba ni o, ọba lọ́la ni o, gbogbo yẹn story ni. Ó lè jẹ́ another 300 years ní nǹkan tá à ń sọ yìí. History ni, ẹ lọ trace yẹ. History ni. So tá bá ní ẹ jẹ́ n ka kíní yẹn síwájú fún yín díẹ̀ ẹ̀yin ọmọ Ọ̀yọ́mèsì bí ẹ ṣe débi tẹ̀ wá. So Ọ̀rọ̀ǹpọ̀tọ̀ was the first and the only female Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́. She was the sister of her predecessor, Egungun Ojo. She assumed the throne in 1554. Ẹ máa gbọ́ o, because there was no male successor from her elder brother at their own time. Listen, I'm going to repeat that. In 1550, you know Egungun Ojo, he was the Aláàfin that founded Igboho, Ọ̀yọ́. And they said during the Egungun Ojo time, he was just finding Igboho, Ọ̀yọ́. That was the only major achievement that he made whilst on the throne. That was the only significant thing he did. So therefore, the reign moved to Ọ̀rọ̀ǹpọ̀tọ̀, which was the only. So guys, take note of this name. When you hear the name Ọ̀rọ̀ǹpọ̀tọ̀, you people should tell anywhere you are proudly that that was the one and the only. That was the one and the only female Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́ that Ọ̀yọ́ kingdom produced. Ẹ má gbàgbé o. That was the one and the only female Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́ that ever reigned on that throne. Why? Because there was no male successor to ascend the throne. So therefore, instead of that place to be empty, they look around and there was no male successor to climb the throne. Hence, she was made the Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́ because of absence of a male child. So now you see what how I started with you guys, that there's no how these men, this Baba, all these Obas will not marry as many as possible, except that they want their reign to end there. Except that you women want to be, you want to be selfish enough to end the reign of your husband, of your man, because you are jealous, you are envious, you don't want to have another co-wife, and hence you will say your husband should not bring in as many wives. It means, the implication of it is their name gets wiped away from history of Yoruba land where they used to reign. And who wants that? None of them wants to step out of power. They want their name to live forever in the book. Because there was no male child to ascend the throne of your kingdom. In 1554 to 1562, that was how they came by Orompoto, the female, which was a sister to Egungojo, that reigned between 1550 and 1554. You remember the Egungojo did not achieve anything aside apart from creating Oyo Igboho. And that was how Orompoto got, opportunity of climbing the throne. Our brother has wasted off. He died there. There was nobody else to mount the throne. So she volunteered herself. They fought war. It was war because another family would have loved to step there. But because it was their turn, but there was no male child. Hence, she declared herself as the next Alaafin of Oyo, and she reigned. Now, let me tell you about Orompoto's reign, the first and the only female Alaafin of Oyo. She was the sister of her predecessor, Egungojo. She assumed the throne in 1554 because there was no male successor from her elder brother at the time. Legend has it that she cut off her breast. Mastectomy. Listen, mastectomy. So cutting off of breast has started from those days. All this body contour people are going to do, it has been in existence since 1554. Now, this king the Alaafin of Oyo Orompoto, decided to remove her breast. She cut off her breast, which is mastectomy, and put on men's clothes to look like a proper man for the Oyo Mesi to accept her as Alaafin of Oyo. So when you want to make reference, let's tell our children, the Oyo kingdom, there was once a female king there called Orompoto. She had to remove her breast for people to accept her as a male king. She wanted to look like a male. So she took off her breast and she was wearing agbada. In 1557, Alaafin Orompoto, the custodian of the vagina that kills evil plots, the king with the great gift, the king with the flabbergasting gift, strengthened Oyo military might. She imported horses from as far as Timbuktu in Mali and had over 1,000 horsemen. She did tie leaves on the horses' tail so that when they went to fight, the leaves swept the ground after them to cover trails of the horses' prints. Isn't that brilliant and intelligent of her? They usually tie leaves on the tail of the horses. So when the horses, whenever they pass by, the leaf will be sweeping their footpath so nobody can trace it that the warriors have just passed this end now, or that is the route they follow. The leaves on the horse tail will be clearing their footpath so nobody can trace where they pass. And they said she had over 1,000 horsemen. She was a powerful ruler. She imported horses from Mali. And Orompoto was a skillful commander and a tactical leader. She was brave like a man and won many battles for Oyo land. During her reign, Oyo regained its military prestige and was feared across the south of Niger. She died in the Battle of Ilayi in 1562. Oh my God, she tried as a woman. She reigned for long. They said she won so many battles that even men cannot win. Even the male, Alaafin of Oyo, the battles that they could not win during their own reign, Orompoto won it. And she died as a warrior in 1562. She even reigned far, far longer than her brother. So you see, hopefully you guys will keep this in your history, in your brain, so that when you are called tomorrow, you say, yes, for the first time we listened to Abike Jagaban and we got to know that a female Alaafin of Oyo was actually in existence before today. And you mentioned, the few things that you heard about her, that she was one of the strongest Alaafin of Oyo that emerged in history. Okay, so now, when Oron Poto died in 1562, then we had Alaafin Ajiboye. You know, when I woke up this morning, I woke up with one of my Yoko woke me up. And now my Yoko was arguing with me that only the Adeyemi reigns in Oyo. I told her, Emma Sodemo, ye, mi ogbanye. Not only the Adeyemi reigns, I'm not going to take that. I am too smart to accept that. And remember that I read history and international relations in school. I always tell you this, that in case in case you are doubting me, you should go to school. Go and ask of us very well. When I was in LASU, I read history and international relations. We had a lot of people. You know, I have a lot of lecturer, but that's Said Ologunro. I think he's late now. Honorable Kunle Lawal. We have is it Comrade Adeniji? Yes. We have a lot of people. Uncle Habib Sonny. Otokiti. Is it yeah, is it Otokiti? We have a lot of people. If you have been to LASU, you will know about all these lecturers. They are very brilliant, very, very brilliant people that taught us during my own time. And, history is quite interesting. Yes, it's a very tough course. It's got to do with date, time, location. So you have to be very smart. And that's what I've got retentive memory. I don't forget things. And that's why a lot of people tend to say, oh, she doesn't forgive people. No, I don't just forget incidents. I don't forget things at all. Because we have to keep all this date, location, time, year in our head, especially when you want to pass your exam. So these were my lecturers. We had we also have Professor Adeoti. If you're in LASU, you should know Professor Adeoti. His office used to be downstairs when we were there. I'm trying to remember all my lecturers now. And we have the female lecturer. Is it Auntie Funke? She's very tough. I don't know if she's now dean of faculty or something. Very, very tough. Our office used to be near Shinyon. Yes. Yes, we have Mr. Shinyo Yeweso. That's the HOD then. Sorry. Yeah. Uncle Shinyo Yeweso was our HOD. Then we I think later Uncle Kunle, Mr. Kunle Lawal too. The short dark man that uses glasses. I can't remember now. If you're in LASU, you would know the history teachers. So they taught us all this when I was in school anyway. So when I tell you I went to LASU, I went to school. We were taught all this. Even though we have, me personally, I have forgotten, a lot of things. But then the moment you reopen my my brain, just try and let's have something educative. Of course, I can't forget everything being taught. So I knew that a female Alaafin of Oyo has emerged before, and she was a very brave woman, a very, very brave one. So, okay, let me go back to what I was reading. I just wanted you to know that I have skills when it comes to history. Yes, he's a professor now. Oluwafemilayo, exactly. Yes, Shinyo Yeweso is now a professor. Yes, Professor Shinyo Yeweso. I think he's from Ile-Ife as well. He's somewhere from the Oyo because he has the accent. Whenever he's teaching us, you can tell that he has this accent. And we also have I'm trying to remember one old soldier. He's a soldier. He's Colonel. Hey, Colonel. Hey, what's that Colonel's name? Oh, if you know one Colonel in history, Colonel is slim and tall. Colonel Suarez. Do you know Colonel Suarez? I don't know if you guys, this. Well, I left a long time ago, but we used to have Colonel Suarez. Yes, it's Suarez. I remember. He's a very funny lecturer. He will come in and say, very, very funny man, Colonel Suarez. Yes, I remember now. It's Colonel Suarez. Is dark, is slim, tall, very tall. He doesn't stand straight. He's always standing with his legs bent to the back. Colonel Suarez. I don't know if he's still alive. He was an old man then. Yes, Colonel Suarez. We have Professor Adeoti. That one is short and fair like this from, I think it's from Ilesha Abi Ondo Akure thereabout. And we have this lady. We only have one female lecturer then. She's a lady. Her name is Funke something from same. And then we also have Colonel Adeniji. Adeniji. That one is Mr. Handsome like this. Very handsome and tall. Always in suit. Clean. Never cut on fresh. And we have the okay, Uncle Said Ologunro passed away now. Yes, we have so many of them like that. If you read history, you will know about them. You will know about them. If you were in Lasso, then you will know about them. So, as I was saying, let me brief you about the Oyo Kingdom again. So, when that female Alaafin of Oyo passed away, we had Ajiboyede in 1562 to 1570. So you see, the reign then, it was not even like all these ones that stay for 50 years, 60 years, 40 years. It's not more than 15 years maximum then. They don't reign for too long. I don't think any of them even spend 20 years. There are some Alaafin that reigned for just 5 years, 7 years, according to history. So the Ajiboye was between 1562 and 1570. He was a successful and brave king, but he was a tyrant. Did you hear that? He was a successful and brave king, but then he was a tyrant. During his reign, the Takpas from Nupe invaded the country again, but the king was victorious. The king's favorite son Oshemolu. Oshemolu died shortly after the king also died. Now, did you hear that? You know, I said it earlier on that they have to have as many male children from different women as possible. The fact that you have a first male child, it does not mean that your child will become the king automatically. No. If whatever Ifa picks, it could be from the 4th wife, from the 5th wife, from the 10th wife, from the 2nd wife. It could be from you. It could be from any of the wives if they have male children too. Look at this story now of the reign of Ajiboyede. The moment Ajiboye died, you wouldn't believe that the king also died. The king died, and the son that would have succeeded him, he died with him. So listen now, who now succeed who? That is the reason why they advise them to bring in as many women as possible so that their reign does not end there. If only he did not die now, probably his son would have succeeded him. So because his favorite child died with him, which is the only child, now the reign moved to the Abikpa. Abikpa now started reigning from 1570 to 1588. Abikpa rebuilt Oyo Ile after the destruction by the Nupe marauders. He decided to carry the seat of government back to Oyo Ile. Even though the nobles were against it, however, he was successful, and the king buried charms in strategic places in the city so that it would not be destroyed again. In 1588 to 1599, Obalokun also reigned. Obalokun, it means salt, sodium, and chloride. He was introduced to Oyo Ile by Portuguese explorers during his reign. His mother was the daughter of the Alake. So you see, the daughter of the Alake of Egbaland too got married to them in Oyo. So now, listen to that part. So when you're talking about history, you must always remember this. All of this, you know, history intertwined in a way is all interwoven some way, somehow. There's no how you will trace this tribe that you will not be linked. Look at the Nupe people, the Aworis, the Tapas. They are even related to Oyo Kingdom. Meanwhile, we will believe the Takpa, some of us will believe that it belongs to Ilorin. Before extension of all those territories, it became what in boss, it become to Jamo become. Do you understand? So now, the Obalokun mother, The Obalokun mother was the daughter of the Alake, the king of the Egba. He was also the first Alaafin to have had contact with an European king, most likely king of Portugal. As the Portuguese were the only foreign power present in Yoruba land in the 16th century. In 1599 to 1658, Ajagbo came to reign. His reign was a very long one. He had a friend at Iwoye called Kokoro Igangan, whom he made the first Are Ona Kakanfo. So you see, that's why people always say Are Ona Kakanfo must come from Oyo Ile, because the first Are Ona Kakanfo emerged from Oyo kingdom. So nobody can claim it. So you see now, when they made King Wasiu Ayinde Mayegun, you know, some people will say Oyo nìkan ló lè fèyàn jẹ Mayegun. Some people will say Ife nìkan ló lè fún wọn ṣe Mayegun. It started from days in the past, from the past centuries, whereby every kingdom has their own power. You see, they can say, oh, ibi nìkan náà sì lè fèyàn jẹ Erelu kìnìkan Ọ̀yọ́ ló ń fi wọ́n jẹ oyè Ọ̀yọ́ ni, kìnìkan oyè Ilé-Ifẹ̀ ni. So now you see, by history we heard that the first Are Ona Kakanfo emerged from Oyo. So this king called Ajagbo made his best friend the first ever Are Ona Kakanfo, which is called Generalissimo. Generalissimo. He was a warlike king, and he conquered many people in the West, including the Popos, and the Sabes. The Popos are the only Popo of Ipopo and the only Sabe of Isabe in Ilu Bini. Taman so pe only Popo of Popo, only Sabe of Ilu Sabe. So this King Ajagbo, he war against them and he conquered them in history. He conquered a lot of people from the western part of Nigeria, including the Oni Popos and the Oni Sabes in Benin Republic. He destroyed Iweme in Popo country after sending 4 expeditions out at once under the Bashorun Agbakin Kakanfo and Ashipa, which is his best friend. Kakanfo followed him to the war, Ashipa, Agbakin, and that was how Ajagbo reigned, which means the Oye Are Ona Kakanfo, Oye Oyo Kingdom Empire ni. Àwọn nìkan ló lè fìyàn jẹ Are Ona Kakanfo. Bẹ́ẹ̀ni, so if any king says, because according to history, they said the first one emerged from there. He made his friend Generalissimo. So you see, when you hear all these kings, that some of them, they don't want to bow down for each other, is according to the history that they made, that their forefathers, their ancestors made. And that is why they say, they refuse to bow to each other. So when they want to make you an Oloye, Papa, it's better you trace the Oye to Feje, so that kò ní sí controversy lé lórí. Do you get? Ó máa ń dágbà mi pé kíyàn ká ní ìmọ̀ àti òye. Oyè tí mo fẹ́ jẹ ìta ló kọ́kọ́ fìyàn jẹ. Bó bá jẹ́ oyè Ọ̀yọ́ ni, bó bá ní ó wá jẹ́ nífẹ̀ẹ́, bó bá jẹ́ oyè Ifẹ̀ kan ni ó wá jẹ́. So wọ́n fún ara wá lè kọ́kọ́ trace ẹ̀ fún ara wá get ready for the controversy that may come, you know, after it, so that you can answer them back intelligently. Pé bí tó yẹ kí n ti joyè ni mo ti jẹ́. Because the first one, Eloka, so you can answer them proudly, and they will know that you have, you know, you have wisdom and skill and, you know, information about what you're saying. So now we have the Odarawu, Alaafin of Oyo, tó jẹ́ Odarawu in 1658 to 1659. His reign was very short. He had a bad temper. He ordered for destruction of a town called Ojosegi. He was eventually rejected by the noblemen and ended up committing suicide because he could not tame his temper. He could not, you know, control his temper. He was chased out. They intimidated him. He was refused, and he ended up committing suicide. And his reign was just between 1658 and 1659, just 1 year. Only Odarawu fi jẹ Alaafin of Oyo. And now come Karan. Karan jẹ láti 1659 to 1665. Karan too was a tyrant. He was cruel. He was harsh. He was tortured and killed many of his subjects for slight offenses. Ara àwọn bí tó ti máa sọ pé ọba tó jẹ́ tìlú tòrò, orúkọ ò ní gbàgbé. kò ní kúrò nínú ìtàn. Èyí tó tún jẹ́ tìlú tún dàrú náà, orúkọ yẹn náà ní kúrò nínú ìtàn. So irú Kànràn yìí sì wọ́n kọ síbẹ̀ pé ó máa ń pa àwọn èèyàn ṣeré pé kán tó ṣẹ̀ díẹ̀ kọ́kọ́ sọ pé bàbá irú ẹ̀ṣẹ̀ tẹ́ ẹ̀ ń wò lórí social media táwọn bàbá yìí ń wò lénìí á ti ní kán lọ gbé ẹni yẹn wá kán bẹ́rí ẹ̀ sórí Ògùn straight. So he killed so many of his subjects. Kànràn is being used by the Yoruba to describe anyone perceived of extreme cruelty. Wọ́n ní orúkọ ẹ̀ ṣe máa ń gbọ́ kó tó bá sọ pé àwọn eléyìí Kànràn wọ́n Kànràn gan. Did you hear? Ibi tí èébú yẹn ti jáde nìyẹn tó bá sọ pé wọ́n sọ pé èèyàn Kànràn èèyàn burú. Ọ̀dọ̀ àwọn Ọ̀yọ́ Aláàfin lèébú yẹn àwọn náà ní orúkọ yẹn tó máa sọ pé àwọn eléyìí Kànràn gan o. Nǹkan tó sọ di èébú nìyẹn nítorí pé ẹni yìí ò ní sùúrù. Kò ní ìfaradà. Inú bíbí tínú bá ti bí díẹ̀ á ní kó lọ pa wọ́n kó bẹ́rí wọn sóògùn. Wọ́n ní ibi tí èébú yẹn ti jáde nìyẹn pé Kànràn is being used by the Yoruba to describe anybody with bad temper or that is perceived of extreme cruelty. Ẹni tó bá burú. Tẹ́ bá enjoy program yìí bá ṣe educate yẹn nọwọ́ yín sókè. Ẹ jẹ́ kí n gbọ́. Bẹ́ẹ̀ fà fẹ́ máa gbọ́ lọ. Mo educate yín ni. Ẹ jẹ́ kí inú yín máa dùn. Ṣé ẹ mọ̀ pé ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ èébú la bá nílẹ̀ Yorùbá la mọ̀ bó ṣe jẹ́. A kò gbọ́ pọ́n máa fi ń bú wa ni. Ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ nǹkan tàbá gbọ́ tẹ ẹ̀rẹ́sẹ̀ bí ẹsẹ̀ lọ́kọ́ àmọ́ bí nǹkan kan ló ń jẹ́ ìlọ́kọ́ yẹn. So tó máa sọ pé àwọn eléyìí wọ́n Kànràn gan. Ṣé mọ̀ pé àwa gan kan máa ń sọ ni èmi gan ò gbọ́ rí first time bí mo ṣe educate ara yín lèmi náà educate ara mi pé the word Kànràn ọba ló ń jẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀, ọba tó burú tó jẹ́ Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́ nílẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́ empire tó jẹ́ kó ní kán máa bẹ́ orí àwọn ìṣọ̀wọ́ àwọn tó ń tẹ̀lé àwọn aráàlú tó ní kán máa bẹ́ orí wọn anyhow tó ń pa wọn anyhow. Àwọn ni wọ́n wá parapọ̀ tán máa sọ pé wọ́n fi ń búyàn léni pé lágbájá yìí Kànràn gan. So he was eventually the people eventually rebelled against him because he was cruel. He was killed in a coup by the army backed by the noblemen of the town. Àwọn èèyàn ẹ̀ náà wà lára àwọn tí wọ́n ṣekú pa because they don't like him. Ọba tó burú ni. He fought fearlessly and he perished in the inferno. The inferno that engulfed the palace. His palace was actually set on fire. And that was how the Aláàfin Kànràn died. So you see. So now we have Aláàfin Jàyìn. Aláàfin Jàyìn between 1665 and 1676. Which was just 6 years reign. So that was why I said in those days, they don't even reign like these ones that spent 50 years, 70 years, 40 years. Their reign is not between 10 and Moboche rearrange the constitution, the traditional constitution, whereby they are now allowed to reign for 40, 50, 60 years. So now, during the reign of Jàyìn, Jàyìn was the son of Kànràn. And he was made king after his father's horrible death. He was a gentler disposition than his father, but he was effeminate and his son fell in love with one of his wives. Did you hear? His son fell in love with one of his wives. So when today's blogger wants to abuse, it is not today. Ni ọmọ bá máa wo kan lára àwọn ìyàwó ẹ̀ tán bá kéré jù ládẹ̀ fall in love pẹ̀lú wọn. In rage, Jàyìn, his father, killed his son because he discovered that his son was sleeping with his wife. The son was in love with his father's wife, which was what prompted the father to get him killed because he was sleeping with one of his favorite wives. Eventually, Jàyìn too deposed and tragically committed suicide. The father killed himself after killing the son. After killing the son because he discovered his son was sleeping with one of his wives. You know? So it's not today. Bí wọ́n bá fẹ́ ọgbà àwọn ọmọ kékèké yìí tí wọ́n bá kọ́ àwọn ọmọ wọn dáadáa. Ìmí inú àwọn ọmọ lè jẹ ọmọ àlè kó dàgbà tán kó ní aya bàbá òun lókù tóun máa bá sùn torí pó kéré. Because, you know, at times when there's no energy anymore for these old men to sleep with them, definitely the children will think, I can help my father make babies or sleep with his wives. So, as much as they are having many wives, they have to tutor their children. Never, and that's why everything has changed today, never to ever get involved emotionally with any of their father's wives. Because even in today's what do they call it? In today's constitution and today's civilization, even if they don't kill them, they might still do something that, you know, something terrible to them that will not be so obvious, glaring to the public. Just waste them away. Because no father, in Kotoman Poriki Obo, one nipe in Konti Babanjet, you le fomo je, Aduma deke, Ounti Babanjet, you le fomo, Ounti Yomon jet, you le fun baba. Poshe yeko waniye. But because of those days, the uncivilization and everything, and probably, you know, ill training of the child. If you don't raise your child well, definitely. Ashishi. So that was the end of Jain anyway, and his son. He killed his son, and he eventually committed suicide. You know, there's one thing I heard about the Obas, that instead of them to face disgrace, no Oba will ever face disgrace. Konoki Oba faces disgrace. They have taught them the number one thing to do. They will commit suicide. No Oba will ever leave himself to be publicly dragged or disgraced. If they have done something terrible that they know that the world must not hear or see, they will rather commit suicide and cover themselves up, because the moment they die, whatever sin they committed dies with them. They will never leave themselves to be disgraced, dragged, or killed. So now we have Ayibi, Alaafin Ayibi in 1676 to 1690. To those of you that feels bored, you can leave this chat. But to those of you that wants to be educated, just hang on there. I am educating myself as much as I am educating you guys too. So Ayibi was the king's grandson. The king's grandson. You know, Ayibi ni grandson Jayin, whom the king killed. So now you see, they even encourage their children, their male children, to quickly get married and give them male grandchildren. So no king wants their male children not to get married. They marry as you want to bat omo back papa wa mo pe oni mememe lo fe, because tomo yen ba se ndagba ni baba no mama encourage pe. Imagine now, the king was angry. He killed his son himself, but the son has a male child. It was the male child Jayin Ounlonje Ayibi to wa je ni 1690. So 1690 Ayibi ascended the throne of his ancestors. He was the king's grandson and the son of the beloved prince whom the king killed. Unfortunately, he proved unworthy of the honor and respect accorded to him. He greatly disappointed the hopes of the nation, just like his father to slept with his father's wife. Ayibi was a tyrant, and he took pleasure in shedding blood like his grandfather. He was deposed too, and he eventually committed suicide. So konoko yoba kuro lori tengba yen, won para won. Ayibi no para eni. Bo. So ti yoba ma komo yin dada. Now, the father of Ayibi slept with his own father's wife. And now, ọmọ tó tún wá bí tó yẹ kó tún jẹ́ ọmọ rẹ̀ náà, ìyẹn Ayibi, kí lòun náà tún lọ ṣe? Ó tún pààyàn ṣeré. Bí reign Ayibi náà ṣe tán síbẹ̀ nìyẹn, because oni kò wà deserved of the throne. So we have Oshiago. Oshiago came to reign in 1619. Oshiago came as Alaafin of Oyo between 1690 and 1692. Like his immediate predecessor, he was equally worthless. He was excessive in actions, amassing wealth that he did not live to enjoy. His children fought each other and his foster son. Listen, his foster son, whom he had adopted as the Aremo heir, was killed by his own daughter. Out of envy, Oshiago's daughter killed the adopted son of her father. You see, that is Emma Bo and it's very educative. Whereby a king do not have many wives that will produce him as many male children as possible. They will continue to have female child. And look at this history of this Oshiago now. It was his female children. Oshiago adopted an heir from one of his wives. Ọmọ tí ìyàwó ẹ̀ ti bí síta tó yẹ pé òun ló tọ́ dàgbà. Ó ti wá wò pé àwọn ìyàwó tòun ò bí ọkùnrin. At least ọmọ yìí lè jẹ́ àrẹ̀mọ. And let me tell you, in some of the kingdoms today, that is why when you want to marry, when some of the kings wants to marry a woman that has had children before, the people of such town, territory, they hardly want to accept such woman to bring in their children into the palace for the king to raise them. Because if the king should at any point have any bond with such child from his wife, there is likelihood, I repeat, there is likelihood that such child becomes an heir to that throne. Because we have heard it before. Some of these people, some of all this progenitor, some of them, if you trace their history, you will see that they are children that they brought out of wedlock. So there's high possibility ki omo iyawo yen ko je. If you know, I don't want to go in deep now, let me tell you. So that is why even if some of us have children, some of their people don't want us raising those children out of wedlock in their palace. Why? If the king should have any bond to any male child and he does not have one, there is likelihood such child becomes an heir. Because he was raised and he only knows one father, and the father he knows is the king. And there's likelihood they make such child a king in absence of a male child in future. So that is why they always corner most of these Oloris has had children out that no, you won't come and raise your children here, because they know the implication of it according to what history told us. Right. So now, that was how Oshiago daughter killed the adopted heir, the Aremo that Oshiago adopted from one of his wives. That was how his daughter, out of envy, that how can my father make a stranger that is not part of our lineage by blood, the king, and Alaafin of Oyo, I would rather have him killed than have my father bring in a stranger Aremo from one of his wives to become the ruler of our people. Hence, they killed him. The king was eventually poisoned. Even the king himself was eventually poisoned. For 36 years after Oshiago's death, you wouldn't believe that the throne was vacant because there was no male child to mount the throne. Now, what am I saying in essence? I am trying to educate you guys here. So when you see all these our fathers, all the traditional rulers, when you see them involved with so many women, it's for the fear of the unknown. They want to have as many male child. If they have one male child, two male child, three male child, it's not even enough. If you check history according to what I just read you, can you see how many of them lost their children in war, in one accident, unprecedented, cases and, an event? You see how we claim their male children. That is why they have to have as many as possible by different women. Because if you have just one because of love, it simply means the end of your own reign. Ọba tó bá ní àrẹ̀mọ ló máa tún jẹ. Ọba tí ò ní àrẹ̀mọ ò lè padà wá jẹ nílẹ̀ Yorùbá torí pé a kì í fi obìnrin sórí ìtẹ́ mọ́. Gone are the days that we once had an Alaafin of Oyo that is a female, or an Oni of Ife that is a female. Only one time, and that was in the past. So when they discovered all this, they started encouraging all today's kings to bring in as many women as possible to produce them male children. an educative show this morning because I'm just upset with the way some of our people treat our fathers and how they talk them down because they have many wives. It does not matter at all. I am not one of those illiterate. I will take you by history. Okay, so now, after the reign of Oshiago and the throne, that throne of Oyo kingdom, it was vacant for good 36 years. Can you imagine? They are waiting for the next meal. Where will it emerge? So now they move it to Ojigi. Ojigi, during his reign, Oyo invaded Dahomey. He was elected to a vacant throne. They now had to elect him. He was not chosen by lineage anymore. They had to elect Ojigi to come and mount the throne because the throne has been vacant. That seat has been vacant. The Oyo seat was vacant for 36 good years. He was warlike. Ojigi was warlike, very, very fierce. He loves to fight. He has fighting spirit. He extended his domain to Dahomean territory. In present day, Benin Republic. He was nevertheless a good king. He sent out a large expedition to bring all Yoruba under his control. The expedition is said to have reached the northern part of the river Niger. Despite the king's stern disposition, he was too indulgent of his son. The Aremo's cruelty and excesses eventually caused his father's rejection. The king was deposed by the noble men of Oyo Kingdom and he committed suicide. You know, I told you, no Oba wants to be deposed. Happy weekend, everybody. Good morning as you join me. It's just an educative show. Kò sí ọba tó fẹ́ kí àwọn èèyàn sọ pé àwọn ò fẹ́ òun kan yọ òun kúrò nípò. So tọ́n bá ti yọ wọ́n kúrò nípò, kọ̀rọ̀kọ́ bá ṣí ẹ̀sín, wọ́n máa commit suicide ní láyé jọ́ wọ́n á gbé ògùn jẹ. Òun làwọn eré epic movie tá máa ń wò. Ṣóyé. Òun làwọn epic movie tá máa ń wò yẹn tẹ́ pé wọ́n máa para wọn, ọba sáré wọlé tó bá ti rí pé, you know, gbogbo àwọn kíní tá máa ń wò yẹn, àwọn eré ológun dé yẹn. Ó yẹ ká máa fi kẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ni because àwọn nǹkan tó actually ṣẹlẹ̀ láyé ìgbà yẹn. Ṣóyé yín, òun ni àwọn nǹkan wọ̀nyí tó yẹ pé kọ̀nà kí wọ́n wá kógun ja ọba mọ́lé kán rí ọba mú lọ bí ẹrú. Wọ́n ti sọ ara nǹkan tó máa kọ́ wọn nù pé bí ni. Kọ̀nà kọ́ bá ṣẹ̀sìn ọba gbógun jẹ́ àparẹ̀, kọ̀nà kọ́ bá dẹrú èèwọ̀. Ọba yẹn á ya wọnú ilé. Ṣóyé yín, á jẹ nǹkan. Á gbé ògùn jẹ, á kúkú máa lọ. Kọ̀nà kan lọ fi ṣe ẹrú. Ọba Ọjọ́ nìkan ló máa fi ara ẹ̀ lẹ̀ láàyè tó máa rí mú lọ tá lọ dẹrú. Are you listening to me? Are you listening to me, guys? I hope you are relating what I'm reading to what is happening today with all our traditional rulers. Pé kò ń ṣe pé ohun àwọn míì nínú wọn bẹ́ẹ̀ pé kán máa fẹ́ yàwó ní rẹpẹtẹ. Ìdí tí wọ́n ṣe gbọ́dọ̀ ó kan dandan so ìyàwó tí ò bá rẹ́dì láti ní lẹ́yìn àbí ní níwájú má lọ fẹ́ ọba o. Nítorí pé dandan ni. Ó di dandan kí wọ́n rọ́ wọn wálé bẹ́ẹ̀. Nítorí pé kírú àwọn ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀ burúkú ìjàmbá yìí kó má bàa ṣẹlẹ̀. Ọba tó ṣe bẹ́ẹ̀ wọ́n sọ pé kò tó láti jẹ ọba ni. Ọba tó bá lójo láti kóyàwó wọlé kò tó láti jọba. Ọba tó bá lójo láti bímọ púpọ̀ kò tó láti jọba. So ara bó ṣe lè expand the coast wọn territory yẹn kó máa lọ bẹ́ẹ̀. You have to produce us more male children. Male children. They want more male children so that the territory will not be lost to àwọn tí wọ́n háyè látọ̀ nǹkan. Even láyé tá a wà yìí, bí ìkankan lára àwọn territory yẹn bá fail láti produce male children tó máa gorí ibẹ̀. Tẹ́ ẹ̀ bá ṣọ́ra ìkejì á take over. Wọ́n á take over and that is nǹkan táwọn náà máa ń ṣọ́ nìyẹn. Tọ́n bá ti rí pé one territory ti weak, wọ́n á kógun lọ jà wọ́n, wọ́n á gbà pọ̀. Wọ́n ti wọn bó ṣe ń ṣe láyé jọ̀hún nìyẹn. Bí gbogbo àwọn bàbá yẹn ṣe tẹ̀dó sí gbogbo àwọn ìlú tá a ti gbọ́ nípa ẹ̀ rí òun náà nìyẹn. So bí Ojigi
bí ó ṣe parí reign títí ẹ̀ nìyẹn. Àrẹ̀mọ ọmọ ẹ̀ ló burú jù. Ọmọ ẹ̀ tó burú jù òun ló fa ikú ẹ̀ láìpẹ́ ọjọ́. So now 1972 sí 1938 1932 sí 1732 sí 1738 Aláàfin Gbẹ́rù òun náà jẹ. Aláàfin Gbẹ́rù ó jọba tó burú gan. He was very wicked. Ogun lòun máa ṣe. He will be making charms. He keep making charms because he was very wicked. So he kept, making charms. And he fought a bitter conflict with his Bashorun, who was his friend, and both of them were deposed, just like his predecessors. He too, he committed suicide. Immediately, he was deposed. Did you notice that virtually all of them that was deposed committed suicide in those days? Ogbele tí wọ́n fi emir tán yọ emir tó bá jẹ́ pé láyé jọ̀hún ni tán bá yọ ẹni ọba yẹn ń lọ wàjà fúnra rẹ̀. But torí pé ọ̀làjú ti dé, kò sí nǹkan tó jẹ bẹ́ẹ̀ mọ́. Àwọn èèyàn rí pé life goes on, unlike those days. So a tún ní Aláàfin Amúniwáyé tó jẹ ní 1738 sí 1742. Aláàfin Amúnimáyé was a very good king initially. He was nice, ìwà ẹ̀dá, but later he now became weak because of his poor morals. His morals were very low. He had an affair with the wife of his medicine man. Ìyàwó olóògùn ẹ̀ tó ń bá ṣoògùn, ó gbà, ó bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní bá sùn. So Magun ló pa Aláàfin Amúniwáyé nítorí pé ẹni tó ń ṣoògùn fún òun ló lọ gun orí ìyàwó ẹ̀. Ìyẹn wá fi Magun sára ìyàwó ẹ̀. Magun yẹn ló pa ọba while having intercourse because kò ní control. Ìyẹn Aláàfin Amúniwáyé tó jẹ between 1738 sí 1742. He only reigned for 4 years. And so the reign moved on to Oníṣílé. Oníṣílé reigned between 1742 to 1750. He was a great warrior. Aláàfin Oníṣílé, he has great courage. He was brave. He was warlike, very fierce. He was very also artistic. He was very artistic. Àwọn oníṣẹ́ ọwọ́ kò sí nǹkan tí ó lè fọwọ́ ṣe, ó lè hun apẹ̀rẹ̀, ó lè kó odidile pẹ̀lú ọwọ́ ẹ̀. Gbogbo nǹkan tí ó yẹ kó bá ṣe, ó ní talent. But he was very rash, and it was his rashness that caused his death. He was struck by lightning. Àrá ló sán pa Aláàfin Oníṣílé, and he was incapacitated before being deposed. And when you are incapacitated, you cannot be a king. Emo kan ma sọ pé abirun àbí whatever àbí kíní kan abarapa ò lè jọba nílẹ̀ Yorùbá. Ẹni tó bá jẹ́ abirun àbí abarapa, wọn kì í fi irú wọn jọba. So before he was deposed and allowed to die peacefully, Bashorun Gaa, the wicked prime minister, he became the head of Oyomesi during his reign. During the reign of Oníṣílé, ibẹ̀ ni Bashorun Gaa ti wọlé ló ṣe wá sọ̀rọ̀ ẹ̀ di kíní. So now, in 1750, we have Aláàfin Lábísí. Aláàfin Lábísí was the shortest reign Aláàfin till date. He spent only 15 days. So the Bible says history sọ pé ọba kan gan ti jẹ ní Aláàfin, tó ti jẹ Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́ for 15 days. Just 15 days. He was the shortest reigned ọba ní Ọ̀yọ́. He committed suicide because of pressure from Bashorun Gaa. So Bashorun Gaa ló fún ní pressure láàrin 15 days tí ó jẹ tó gorí ìtẹ́ yẹn, ó para ẹ̀. The unfortunate king Lábísí was elected to the throne but not allowed to be crowned. Bashorun Gaa sọ pé òun ò ní gbà, pé òun ò ní gbà délé lórí, and he was the one elected. So he became very powerful, Bashorun Gaa became very powerful that he conspired against Aláàfin Lábísí. And he killed him and killed all his friends. Lábísí eventually committed suicide when he could not rule. Gaa remained powerful long after him, installing kings as he pleased. So Gaa, ó bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní jẹ, ó ń fa àwọn èèyàn jẹ, ó di afọbajẹ because he was a prime minister as at then, ìyẹn Bashorun Gaa. So ó ń fọbajẹ bó ṣe ó ń yọba. Operation Fire and Hire lòun kàn ṣe since tó dẹ̀ ti di pé wọ́n elect ni, not by lineage pé ṣé lágbájá bí ọmọ mọ́, nígbà táwọn tó bí ọmọ yẹn gan pàápàá tẹ́ pé ìmí inú wọn kò sí ọmọkùnrin, wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní elect. So now, in 1750, àwọn bí ojú, Aláàfin àwọn bí ojú jẹ. Aláàfin Awóbíojú only spent 130 days on the throne. He was installed by Bashorun Gaa after Labisi. Awóbíojú was killed by the same Gaa that installed him because he refused to prostrate for him. Because Gaa wanted odidi Aláàfin láti dọ̀bálẹ̀ fún pé ṣe bóun láfọbàjẹ́ òun lòun fi ẹ́ síbẹ̀. And that one refused. Hence, Bashorun Gaa, as the prime minister then, he killed Awóbíojú, which was the Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́ then. He killed him. So now, in 1750 to 1770, this reign was 20 years. Ibẹ̀ ni the longest reign tí bẹ̀rẹ̀. Agbolúajé ló wá jẹ Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́. He was a very handsome prince installed by Gaa. His reign was peaceful and the kingdom was big and prosperous. Bashorun Gaa made him fight the king of Popo, who was his friend, and destroyed his kingdom. In frustration, the king committed suicide before the expedition arrived. You see, he would have been expedited as well. But you see, before the expedition arrived, he killed himself too. Bashorun Gaa was èèyàn burúkú afọbajẹ tó burú. Òun náà sọ pé ẹ̀yin ṣe òun náà ṣe máa fi ń búyàn ṣe rí pé tó bá máa búyàn lé ni wọ́n sọ pé ó ṣe wá rorò báyìí bí Bashorun Gaa. Ìtàn bí Ọ̀yọ́ ṣe jẹ́ òun ni mò ń sọ fún yín. Ṣé rántí pé wọ́n kọ́ wa ní Bashorun Gaa náà ní school. So now, between 1770 and 1772, right? Between 1770 and 1772, wọ́n wá fi Májẹ̀ógbé. Májẹ̀ógbé was made the Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́. Ìyẹn Májẹ̀ógbé. But you know, as cruel as Bashorun Gaa is, he was also an afọbajẹ. Nítorí pé ó jẹ́ afọbajẹ, gbogbo Aláàfin tó bá ti fi jẹ nǹkan tó bá fẹ́, òun ló máa ń fẹ́ kí wọ́n ṣe. Èyí tí ò bá ṣe nǹkan tó fẹ́ nínú wọn, mò ń bọ̀ o. Èyí tí ò bá ṣe nǹkan tó fẹ́ nínú wọn, pípa ni ó máa ń parú wọn dànù. I'm coming o. So because Májẹ̀ógbé, Aláàfin Májẹ̀ógbé, he tried to defend himself against Gaa, against Bashorun Gaa, whose sons were now, you know, àwọn ọmọ Bashorun Gaa no, whose sons were now too powerful over the kingdom. They even want to rule over the Aláàfins. Ìyẹn àwọn ọmọ Bashorun Gaa bí tán burú dé torí bàbá wọn jẹ́ àfọ̀bàjẹ́. They collected all the tributes and they were so cruel. And the king eventually died in frustration because there was nothing left for him to use or exhibit. Kò tiẹ̀ láṣẹ gan níbi tí Bashorun Gaa ti ń pàṣẹ fún tó nǹkan táwọn ọmọ Bashorun Gaa bá fẹ́ àwọn ọba yẹn gbọ́dọ̀ ṣe. So the king eventually died out of frustration of pé bóyá ó jí láàárọ̀ wọ́n kan lẹ̀kùn ààfin gbàgbàgbàgbà wọ́n ní ta ni àwọn ọmọ Bashorun Gaa náà dé. Bàbá wọn ní káwọn gbọ́ orí ọba wa wò pé kílẹ̀ tún fẹ́ láàárọ̀ yìí Bashorun Gaa ṣe ń dalẹ̀ yìí láàmú. Do you get? Bó ṣe ní gbogbo àwọn bàbá yẹn lára. So in 1772 and 1789, he had a long and peaceful reign. Ìyẹn Abíọ́dún, Aláàfin Abíọ́dún ló jẹ ní 1772 to 1789. Aláàfin Abíọ́dún dé. Aláàfin Abíọ́dún ó ní a very kíni wọ́n gùn. Tẹ́ bá rí pé gbogbo àwọn tó wà ńbẹ̀ wọn kì í pẹ́ kú àbí wọn kì í pẹ́ ṣe wọ́n lè ṣe gẹ́gẹ́ bí Bashorun Gaa ṣe ní wọn lára. But nígbà tí Aláàfin Abíọ́dún dé, òun ní jẹ́yàn tó ní sùúrù, ìlú túbà, ìlú túṣẹ́, àsìkò ẹ̀ pẹ́. Ó fine. He was very wise, he was dignified, a very handsome man. You know, his reign was so significant that he has since passed into proverb. The Yoruba believe that Oyo actually started declining after his death. He defeated Bashorun Gaa and his children. Aláàfin Abíọ́dún fathered over 660 children. Remember, they said he is very handsome. He was a very handsome king, just like this Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́. So, tẹ́ bá ń bú àwọn bàbá yìí, kò ń ṣe nǹkan tó ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ bẹ̀rẹ̀. Ṣóyé yín. Ó ti wà látètè kọ́ṣe. Wọ́n ní pé Aláàfin Abíọ́dún yìí náà wọ́n ló fine púpọ̀. Wọ́n ní ó ní ọmọ tó lé ní 660 children. One man fathered 660 children. and he had many descendants that still live till date. That is what I was telling you about àwọn ọba tó máa ń níyàwó púpọ̀. His descendants, they still live till date, which means his descendants can still be an Aláàfin to the Ọ̀yọ́ kingdom. So his son, it was one of his sons called Awole that poisoned him, and then he succeeded him as a king. In those days when they refused to die, and the children, the sons, the male children are power intoxicated, they at times kill their father so that they can ascend the throne. When they are too powerful, that's what they do. Láyé ìjọ́ ohun tí wọ́n bá àwọn ọmọ àrẹ̀mọ yẹn tínú bá bí mi nínú wọn, wọ́n á máa gbé ògùn fáwọn bàbá wọn jẹ so that àwọn á lè jẹ. So when Abiodun's son, the male heir, when he could not stand his father anymore, he was power intoxicated. Awole had to kill Aláàfin Abiodun. He poisoned his father so that he could become the king. Hence, he became the king. You know, he succeeded him. But then in 1789 to 1796, Awole Arogangan, under him, under his reign, the kingdom disintegrated as the provinces became tired of Oyo's tyranny and slavery was rife. He was probably too mild and weak. He wanted to be the king, but he was too mild and weak. And he had an enemy in Afonja, the Kakanfo, who was very powerful. That was the enemy he had in Afonja, the Kakanfo. That was very powerful. Afonja was stationed at Ilorin with the major part of Oyo cavalry. Afonja the Bashorun and the Onikoyi eventually led a rebellion against him. As their forces surrounded the city, Aole committed suicide after cursing Afonja and his co-conspirators. The Oyo Empire, and indeed the Yoruba nation, never recovered from this tragedy till today. Wow. So in 1796 and between 1797, Adebo, he became the king. Aláàfin Adebo. He became the king nominally. They nominated him, but never really had powers. He was too weak. The whole land rebelled during his reign, and the chief clamored for territories. Afonja declared independence first, and many provinces followed. Afonja won a great victory against the Oyo armies with the help of Alimi. Alimi was the Fulani and the Solagberu, a Yoruba Muslim. He fought several battles in which he subjugated and destroyed many Yoruba cities. Ilorin later became part of the Sokoto Caliphate when the Fulani took over. So, you know, I told you that all these territories, there are ways that they are interwoven into each other. Even the Hausa, the Sokoto Caliphate, you trace it back to Ilorin, Afonja history, you know, coming back to the southwest, even to Lagos. Gbogbo àwọn territory yìí pátápátá táwọn ẹlòmíì máa sọ pé Tápà làwa o, Ìlọrin làwa o, báwo la ṣe tọmọ yín lọ́yọ̀ọ́, Ìlọrin làwa o, àwọn ò tọmọ yín lẹ́gbàá o, gbogbo ẹ̀ ló wà interwoven. Ẹ rántí pé ọmọ ìkan lára àwọn ọba aláké tó jẹ́ obìnrin, ó ti fẹ́ wọn nílùú Ọ̀yọ́ rí. So ṣe rí gbogbo wọn wọnú ara wọn gidi gan. So now, the Ilorin later became part of the Sokoto Caliphate. Ṣé ẹ rántí pé Àfọ̀njá kí náà ti ń pè Ọ̀yọ́ ni wọ́n ti fi jẹ. Now listen, the reign of Makwa. Are you guys there? I think you are sleeping. Am I boring? You are not learning. You don't want to learn. So now, you are not enjoying this show. If you are enjoying this show, I will see you showing me love. In 1797, Aláàfin Makwa mounted the throne. These are the past Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́ before Ọba Lamidi Adeyemi. So when Aláàfin Makwa mounted the throne, his reign was very short and tragic. He reigned for only 2 months in 1797. He led an expedition against Iworo and he was defeated. He committed suicide in Oyo. The period that followed was the Yoruba Civil War of the 19th century between 1800 and 1893. The Yoruba fought a series of wars that decimated huge portion of the country and caused a considerable amount of internal migration. Many large cities were destroyed completely and never to be rebuilt. New cities sprang up from refugee camps or military bases. You know, I told you the other time that they enjoy taking over each other's territory, you know, depending on who is the strongest. The stronger you are, the more territory you're going to win. He enlarge your coast, he enlarge, you know, your own territory. You know, if you only have 1.2, you may eventually become 10 point something. You know, it keeps growing bigger and bigger. You know, depending on your army then. So the more chiefs and the army, just like somebody that made it, Bashoruga, you know, he was a minister, he was, you know, a warrior, and he really helped the Oyo Empire despite, you know, his wickedness eventually. So in 1801 now, in 1801, which was bringing us, you know, to the 19th century, the Yoruba Civil Wars, you know, that happened in the 19th century. Now, 1801, we had Alaafin Majeotu. Alaafin Majeotu mounted the throne because the throne was vacant for a while again. There was nobody to become Alaafin. And then Alaafin Majeotu was elected to the throne. You see now, they stopped making their male children and their, you know, grandchildren that are male because of the things that happened, you know, to them. And obviously some of them don't even have male children to mount to the throne. So they started electing people from àwọn ìdílé tó máa fi pé ọba tọ́ sí, maybe according to Ifa or whatever. But you know, like they said, pé àwọn, if you can remember what I read to you earlier on, pé wọ́n introduce Ifa sí Ọ̀yọ́ ni. Obìnrin ló wá introduce Ifa sí Ọ̀yọ́. So now, after a period, when the throne was vacant, Majeotu was elected to the throne. He reigned from 1802 to 1830. That is 28 years. His reign was full of war, rebellion. In 1823, the Dahomey, they rebelled. They defeated the Oyo army and they gained complete independence. Ilorin became a formidable force. And they started conquest of Yoruba land. The conquest was the toughest, which we read in history when I was in school. Anywhere they conquer, they kill people, they take over their territory, and that is it. You know, so the conquest of the Yoruba land started from the reign of Majeotu. You know, they destroyed and they looted. They looted. Wọ́n jalè, wọ́n kó wọn lẹ́rú, wọ́n kó wọn nílùú, wọ́n jalè, wọ́n kó bá kó anything, kó balẹ̀, tán bá bá ń bẹ̀, kó ọmọ ìlú, wọ́n dáná sun gbogbo ìlú. Wọ́n wá tẹ ìlú yẹn pẹrẹsẹ at the part of ìlú títí wọn. The Owu, ibẹ̀ ni ogun Owu, the Owu War that started in 1821 to 1827 also occurred, in which the town of Owu was completely destroyed. The Owu later settled in Abeokuta, but it was first destroyed by the armies of the Oyo Empire. So now, in 1830, you know, ẹ máa rí pé ara àwọn ìlú yẹn mi, àwọn ọba yẹn ò bára wọn ṣe di ọ̀la nítorí pé wọn ò fẹ́ nǹkan tó máa jẹ́ pé tọ́rẹ̀ bá wọnú ọ̀rẹ́ tán wọ́n á tún kóra wọn lẹ́rú. And àwọn míì, if they live by the history, wọn ò fẹ́ bára wọn ṣe mọ́ nítorí nǹkan tán ti ṣe fáwọn baba ńlá kó baba wa. Ṣóyé yín. So now, Aláàfin Àmọ́dó ó dé ní 1830 to 1833, which means he only reigned for 3 years. His reign lasted for just 3 years. He was very weak at the beginning, but later he proved himself to be one of the wisest king and a very decisive one. He takes decision, or apasheni, shoyeyin. Despite being unfortunate, he came to the throne at a time when the kingdom was distracted by anarchy and confusion. The Fulanis were having an eye on the capital of Yoruba land. None of the provincial kings now paid tribute to Oyo. or acknowledge the authority of the king anymore. Remember, as I read to you in the past, how Oyo took over a lot of, lands, and how they spread it to Ilorin Afoja, and how the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò, also the Kilorukwe too, how they try to move to Ilorin, and also the Northern Caliphate. So now, all of them, they were rebelling against Oyo. Because of the weak king, the Amodo, none of them wants to pay any homage or pay any money or anything anymore to the Oyo kingdom. So the Fulani were having high on the capital of Yoruba land. Nobody is paying tribute to Oyo anymore or acknowledge the authority of the king. He was virtually king of the capital only. The Ilorin army, they now plundered Oyo for the first time ever because of a weak king. They now plundered into Oyo for the first time. Wọ́n tún pé kí ni Aláàfin Àmọ́dó eléyìí tó jẹ́ láàrin kíní tààrí kò dìde ogun kò lọ kógun jà kó gba èyí tó bá kógun jà ìlú nù wọn ló máa ń threaten àwọn territory tó kù, so everybody will be on guard, they will be scared. But because Àmọ́dó was very relaxed, he doesn't care, he was just there. Initially he was so weak, but later he was smart. Later, he was being decisive, and very wise. And if you don't apply wisdom, but then one shall serve. One shall serve. When the Ilorin plundered into Oyo for the first time during Amodo's reign, they did not destroy the city. Amodo later united some of the Yoruba chiefs who had turned their backs on the empire. Some of them are falling out, due to their relationship with the past kings and whatever. But Amodo was wise enough to bring all the chiefs together so that they can brainstorm on which way to go, or your empire must not fall. Because he can see that the northerners are now planning, the Fulanese, to take over your empire. So he called back his armies. I once applied this in my team. I at times look back and I say, okay, this person must not go. This person, we have to let go and we have to continue. We have to be strategic. Most times when I do things and some of you look at me, I say, oh, AJ, don't do this. I told you I am a strategic leader. You must not watch your empire, scatter, defeated, or collapse. We have to be strategic and wise. So Amodo was wise. He brought back all the chiefs that have left during the reign of his predecessors. They started to brainstorm so that the Fulani would not take over the Oyo Empire. So they raised an army and besieged Ilorin, but they were betrayed by the Edun of Gbongan. They actually raised an army. He was able to bring back all the chiefs. He reunited them. Those ones that have turned their back on Oyo Empire, he went back to them. So some of them came back. They raised an army and they also besieged Ilorin. And Fulani pẹ̀lú àwọn Ìlọrin wọn kì í ṣe ọ̀rẹ́. So he besieged Ilorin pé gẹ́gẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe jẹ́ Yorùbá, and with history, they made some of the very strong chiefs in Ilorin, today, being friends of the Oyo Empire. Now, what happened after that? The Edun of Gbongan was the one that betrayed them, who was then the Kakanfò. The Edun of Gbongan was then the Kakanfò of Oyo, and the army that they raised were dispersed. Gbongan was later besieged by Ilorin, and the Edun was defeated. After defeating both the Kakanfò and the Onikoyi, rendering the Aláàfin powerless, which was the Aláàfin Àmọ́dó, he was rendered powerless. The Ilorin cavalry easily captured most of the northern Yoruba town. Remember, Oyo-Ile has captured some of the northern town, not Ele. So now the Ilorin, they defeated them, and they captured most of the northern Yoruba town that is already part of Oyo Empire. After that, they turned their conquest southwards towards the Ijesha tribe, where they face stiff The Ilorin now faced their conquest southwards towards the Ijesha tribe, where they experienced very stiff resistance from the Ijesha people. At this time, the remnants of the Oyo and the Egba armies, they began to attack the Ijebu because of their participation in the Owu War. Ijebu being part of Ogun State, they supported the Owu War. So now, they started facing the Ijebus because of their involvement in Owu War, because they stood as one. So the whole Yoruba land again became embroiled in civil war. That was what we call the conquest of Yoruba land. Territory, number one heads, all, they race against each other within Yoruba against Yoruba. In 1833 now, they had Oluewu as the Alaafin of Oyo. Right. So when Oluewu came, the Alaafin of Oyo, in 1833 and 1835, which is just 2 years reign, during Alaafin Oluewu, the Fulani Empire had already captured Ilorin after an internal coup. After an internal coup, and it's been transformed into a Fulani Emirate. Ile tó máa sọ pé inú ilé ibẹ̀ ni aṣeningbe. So they planted an insider that sold out their land. Hence, they were defeated by the Fulanis. Part of the Ilorin. So Oluewu was then bound to Shita, the emir of Ilorin. However, he refused to embrace Islamic religion and sought help from Bogu to defeat the Fulanis. Jagaban Bogu. Someone told you, Oye ton jẹ ní north ni. So you see, by history, all this Oye ti wà ńbẹ̀ láti lẹ̀. Awala Elomi will just wake up and say, what is Bogu? I always tell you that Jagaban Bogu is a fierce person, a leader that is fierce, a fighter, a warrior, a charismatic leader. So now, Oluewu was then bound to Shita and the emir of Ilorin. However, when they were refused, embrace to the Islamic religion, and they sought help from Bogu to defeat the Fulanis for them. At the beginning, he recorded some success in the battle, but at a final stage to recover the northern part of Yoruba land from the Fulanis, it was what led to his death. He died, and that of many of Oyo leading nobles died with him. So Ilorin now, under the Fulani, eventually destroyed Oyo. At this point, Ilorin destroyed Oyo. It was a tough battle. So between 1838 and 1858, there was Alaafin Atiba Atobatele. Ibiti eba gbọ́pọ̀ máa ń sọ pé Aláàfin ni ọmọ Atiba Pagogo. Now in 1833, Alaafin Atiba Atobatele, he mounted the throne of Oyo. When he mounted the throne of Oyo, he moved the capital from Oyo to Agoja, the present Oyo today, Agoja. During his reign, the remnant of the Yoruba army moved south and camped in an area that belongs to the Egba of Bagura clan. I told you the other time that all these people, the territories and our rulers, they were all interwoven one way or the other. Now you'll be wondering, Pelati Alaafin, a lot of Egba kingdoms, let me tell you today, they are under the province of Oyo till date, and some are under Ile-Ife. So you see, Toma fẹ́ pín àwọn Yewa nǹkan kan yẹn, àwọn ìlú kan wà, they are under the Oyo Empire. Aláàfin of Oyo ló ń rule lórí wọn, and some náà wà tó jẹ́ pé Ile-Ife ló ń rule lórí wọn. Bí wọ́n ṣe pín ní according to war ayé ìgbà yẹn, ogun bógun ṣe jà wọ́n, àwọn ìlú tí wọ́n kó sábẹ́, àwọn even though peace ti wà ń sìn, but síbẹ̀ náà tá bá trace history bí wọ́n ṣe create àwọn empires míì, ẹ máa rí pé bóyá lẹ́yìn ogun àbí ńgbà tí ogun tó sinmi àbí kíníkan ni wọ́n tó ní sinmi bẹ́ẹ̀, gbogbo wọn tẹ́lẹ̀ under the reign of àwọn very tough, first class monarchy yìí, òun ni wọ́n wà. So now, ní 1838 yẹn sí 1858, which is 20 years, see Oba Atiba, Atoba Teleje. He moved the capital of Oyo to Agoja, present Oyo. During his reign, the remnant of the Yoruba army moved south and camped in an area that belongs to the Egba of Bagura clan. The war camp later became the city of Ibadan, and he emerged as the new power center in Yoruba land. Note, in your more any Aragbagura, be a come by history. Oba Atiba, he sought to preserve what remained of Oyo Empire by placing on Ibadan duty of protecting the capital from the Ilorin in the north. Atiba was a very smart and great leader. He came at a time of crisis. Yoruba had lost Igbomino, Ijesha, Ekiti. No, Yoruba has lost Igbomino then. Then Ijesha, Ekiti, and Akoko at this time, they were under threat. You know, they said it, we read in the history, I read to you that they were very stiff in the face of war when Oluewu, what is it called? The king, Amodo, tried to threaten their territories. The Ijesha territories. I told you that when Amodo tried to threaten their territory between 1830 and 33, they were stiff-faced. They did not allow him, the Ijesha tribe. So now comes this. When the Atiba, Atobatele, Mumbo. So now Atiba Atobatele, when he moved the capital from Oyo to Agoja and that I read to you, and then, you know, the war camp later became the city of Ibadan, and he emerged as the new power center in Yoruba land. Oba Atiba sought to preserve the remains of Oyo Empire by placing on Ibadan duty of protecting the capital from the Ilorin in the north. Atiba was a great leader, but he came at a time when there were a lot of crises, war were going on, you know, and he posed himself to be one of the smartest and the, you know, fiercest of all the, you know, the kings that Oyo Kingdom has produced. Yoruba had lost, you know, Igbomino. Now, Ijesha, Ekiti, Ati, Akoko at this time, they were so scared, they were petrified, they don't know what is going to happen because of where the power moved, you know. Now, Ogbomosho, Ede, Iwo, Axis, they were under attack. Even Ogbomosho, even Oshogbo had been defeated as at this time. He was occupied by the Fulani. The Fulani took over Oshogbo. In fact, the entire Yoruba land was under the Ilorin Fulani siege as at this time. However, Ibadan will not allow onslaught to continue. In 1840, Ibadan soldiers defeated and pushed Fulani warriors back to Ilorin. So cherry pe gbogbo wo pe àwọn Fulani sì fẹ́ padà jókòó sí Ìlọrin yẹn. Wọ́n fẹ́ máa pa wọ́n fẹ́ àwọn Fulani fẹ́ padà jókòó sí Ìbàdàn. Wọ́n fẹ́ jókòó sọ́yọ́, wọ́n fẹ́ lọ yẹn. Ẹ máa gbọ́ history ibi tó ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ rẹ̀. 1840 ni nǹkan tá tin ka started in you know, centuries back. In the early BCC, gan if yes no, wọ́n ti ní ojú nínú Ọ̀yọ́, wọ́n believe pé part of Ọ̀yọ́ ni àwọn Fulani. So ẹ má ẹnikẹ́ni tàn yín pé wọ́n lè rí gbogbo wọn lé láyé, ilé wọn ni. Wọ́n ti jogún bẹ̀rí, wọ́n ti jọba ń bẹ̀rí, wọ́n ti ṣe rádaràdà ń bẹ̀rí. Now, Ibadan soldiers were defeated and pushed Fulani warriors back to Ilorin, but they could not take the city. They could not take the city. They only pushed them back. Atiba died in 1859. He was the last really great king that Oyo had. He was the last great king that Oyo had. He tried to restore Oyo's glory, but the decline was bound to happen as all the tribes were fighting one another as at this time. Èmi ò gbà, ìwọ ò gbà, ò lè tẹ̀dó sílùú mi, ò lè kó wa lẹ́rú, à lè dúró lábẹ́. Gbogbo ẹ̀ kò jẹ́ kí kíní yẹn wà successful. So the two current ruling houses, Agunloye and Alowolodu, came out of Atobatele Atiba. And I think it was this Atiba, ara wọn ni Baba Adeyemi ti jáde. So now, ọmọ Atiba Pagogo, ẹ máa gbọ́ o. In 1859 to 1875, Adelu Agunloye, one of the ruling houses in Oyo Aláàfin today. King Adelu was Atiba's son. He became king in 1859. The Ijaye War started in 1860 to 1862. And the Ijaye War was fought during the period of Kunrumi, the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò. Remember, the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò was created. It was the title was created from Oyo Kingdom, as I read to you earlier on. Who was the ruler of Ijaye? You know, Kurumi, the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò, who was the ruler of Ijaye, refused to recognize Adelu as the Aláàfin. Kò fẹ́ tẹríba. The war started with Ijaye declaring war on Oyo in 1860. The Ibadan War machine under Ogunmola came in support of Oyo. They rooted Kurumi Ijaye, Egba alliance, and they killed all his sons. Kurumi committed suicide because all his sons were killed. Taloku to first succeeded, and Ijaye was destroyed. The Ijaye War was one of the several wars Ibadan engaged in to assert supremacy in Yoruba land in 1864. The Aláàfin stopped the Batedo War in the name of Shango between Ijebu and the Egbas. In 1876 to 1905, Alowodu Adeyemi Alowolodu Adeyemi, you know, the second ruling house in Oyo, Aláàfin today. In fact, the current ruling house, Alowolodu Adeyemi, which is the current ruling house in 1876. After the emergence, so you see, when we trace the Atiba now, you know, I told you that it will be related to the Adeyemi. So no, Atiba Ojopagogo. Now, after the emergence of Ibadan came out of Oyo, right? The Fulani ceased to be a threat to Yoruba, but bitter civil war among the tribes made peace impossible. Between 1860 and 1885, Ibadan engaged in 5 different wars simultaneously. In 1877, Ibadan went to war against Egba and Ijebu for attacking Ibadan traders. When coming from Porto Novo, they believe they fight too much, so the Ibadan decided to wage war against the Egbas and the Ijebu, against the people of Ogun State. The Ijesha Ekiti seized the moment of that war, you know, in 1878. They attacked despotically the Ibadan Ajeles, which is the viceroys in their territories. Ibadan declared war on Ijesha and Ekiti. The conflict between Ibadan and Ijesha and Ekiti went on for 16 good years. Ekiti being very stubborn set of people, like I told you, that they don't bow down. They can be very, very stubborn. They can be fierce. They don't let go on time. So they refuse to back down. For 16 good years, the war, the conflict was ongoing between them. And it was about the worst war ever in the history of Yoruba land. Ogedengbe, the Seriki of Ijesha Army, Fabumi of Okeimesi, and the Aduloju of Ado Ekiti held Ibadan down as Ibadan engaged in other wars with Egba, Ijebu, Ilorin, and the Ife people. The Ibadan, Ijesha, and Ekiti Parapo war got to its peak at Kiriji, near Ikirun. Now, the Aláàfin was helpless as his people decimated themselves. He therefore invited the British colonial governor of Lagos to help settle the dispute through negotiations undertaken by the church, which was spearheaded by Samuel Johnson, Charles Phillips, and the Lagos governor Alfred Moloney in 1886. Peace gradually returned to Yoruba land as the warring group sheathed their sword eventually. The entire Yoruba land later became under the dominion of the British, and the Aláàfin became a vassal of the colonial government. Now this is 1905 to 1911. Lawani Agojoga is now he now became the Aláàfin of Oyo. He was vassal of the British. He reigned from 1905 to 1911. From 1911 to 1944, Shinyonbola Onikepe Oladigbolu I, which is the then Aláàfin of Oyo too. He became the king after Lawani. He ruled also from 1911 to 1944. And this is when the long reign of Aláàfin started. It was when the colonial, this in, when they set in, that they started having peace. You know, without the colonial governor and intervention, they would not have peace. And that, you see, this was about the longest Alaafin of Oyo that we heard of, the Shinyobola, between 1911 and 1944, because they are under the colonial law then, colonization. So the amalgamation of Nigeria happened about this time too. That was when the amalgamation, the separation of all these territories and stuff, you know, that was about the time that it started, around that time. So now in 1945 to 1955, Adeniran Adeyemi II, which was Baba Alaafin of today that just passed on, it was his predecessor. This was how the Alaafin, remember Oba Atiba, Alaafin Atiba too was there. It was one of their predecessors, and then he ended up, you know, to the turn of Baba Adeniran Adeyemi II, the premier of the Western region. Chief Obafemi Awolowo deposed and sent him on exile with his Aremo crown prince for sympathizing with the National Council of Nigerian Citizens, which was then the NCNC. He had also come into conflict with Bode Thomas, the deputy leader of the Action Group. They both died in exile in 1956 and 1968. Bello Gbadegeshin Oladigbolu became the Alaafin of Oyo. It was the Alaafin when Nigeria gained independence. November 1970, you know, the date Lamidi Olaiwola Adeyemi III mounted the throne. That was when Oba Lamidi that passed on today, he mounted the throne in 1970. So you see what brought us to today's history. Oba Lamidi Adeyemi succeeded Alaafin Gbadegeshin Oladigbolu II in 1970 during the governorship of Colonel Robert Adeyinka Adebayo after the end of Nigerian Civil War. In 1975, the head of state, General Murtala Ramat Mohammed, included Oba Adeyemi in his entourage for the Hajj. He was Chancellor of Uthman Dan Fodio University in Sokoto from 1980 to 1992. Remember, the Oyos has always, you know, been interwoven with the Northern Caliphate then. So definitely, there should be some kind of honor that will be given to the Alaafin of Oyo in the northern state, and you can tell the relationship that they have, that it started from history. So some people say, why would Alaafin be in Usman Dan Fodio? Because if you trace history, they all started together, they worked together, they ended it together. You know, all these territories, if you trace how they became, you know, what they have today, you will see that it is interwoven in one way. They are intertwined somehow. So that was why you see that they still have some friendship between the Oyo Kingdom and the Fulani and the Sokoto or whatever, you know, Caliphate till date. So now Oba Adeyemi was made a vice chancellor of Uthman Dan Fodio University in 1980 to 1992. In 1990, President Ibrahim Babangida appointed him. He appointed the Kabesi that just passed on, Amir ul Hajj, in recognition of his commitment to the consolidation of Islam in Nigeria. You see how the Hausas recognize him is because of his contribution, you know, to Nigerian history. You know, earlier on when I was talking about him, I said Oba Lamidi Adeyemi is history himself, you know, and he reigned for so long. I think it's the longest reigned, you know, Alaafin. So Adeyemi is a lover of boxing. He loves to fight. He was a boxer before becoming the Alaafin. He remains the only educated Alaafin till date. The first and the only educated Alaafin was Oba Lamidi Adeyemi. You know, the third. So we acknowledge Ayomide Akinbode. He puts together this writing, this history. Alaafin is seen in the picture wearing the historic Sheshef Efun crown that was worn by Shango Isn't this brilliant? Let's clap for me. And let's clap for the writer. And, you know, there can never be any friendship between bloodthirsty alien savages from Futa Toro and Futa Dijalon. Yeah, I agree with you. But, you know, for our own sake, there had better be, well, I would like to believe there wouldn't be war anymore. You know, just like the ones that we witnessed of recent, the Fulani trying to take, you know, let's just hope and pray, Sha, that we don't witness war anymore. Because if the Fulanis are still not trying to take over the Oyo Empire, why are they waging war and trying to take over the territory and killing people, you know, so recklessly, uncontrollably? If care is not taken, I hope they will not spread it to our own land in Ijebu and Egba. Thank you, everybody. God bless you. So I just read to you the history of Oyo Empire, how it started to date. So thank God we are part of history and we are still counting. And by the special grace of God, we will continue to be part of history. We are part of it. It happened in our presence. And it's in the presence of a lot of people, he became the king. There are some of his contemporaries as then, when he was made a king some 50-something years ago. They are still alive. There's some people that actually witnessed his predecessor's reign as well, and they are still alive. You know, my grandmother is 101. So I'm sure my grandmother witnessed, you know, a lot of Alaafen's reign. And if you have any grandma that is 100 and over, or grandparent that is 100 and over, you agree with me that some of them have actually witnessed, you know, the reign of so many Alaafin of Oyo. Because in the past, there are so many of them that only reigned for 18 months. We had a lot of Alaafin of Oyo that reigned for 18 months. One was even just 13 days reign. Another was just 3 days reign. We had another that was just 3 years. You know, there were so many Alaafin of Oyo. This is the longest reign Alaafin of Oyo. Titilayo says, Queen AJ, please address. Let me see. I have to ask one of my father this, because I can't give you a straight answer to this. Let me type to one of my father. I'm asking him now. I don't know if let me ask him, because I don't know. The person said, Queen AJ, please address the issue of traditional rulers being buried according to Christian Muslim rites. Was it like that? You know, from what we read, a lot of them actually they commit suicide, you know, each time they get deposed. So I don't know why. From what we read, you see that a lot of them, they don't even get any burial rites. There was actually one that got burnt in the house, in his palace there. He was burnt there. He was burnt with the palace. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how they bury them. If according to Muslim rite or to Christian rite. I know they are traditionalists, and I don't know. You know, when they bury Olubadan, a lot of us, you know, there were a lot of operas and people were very mad, you know. But, you know, they only talk about them being deposed and them getting, you know, committing suicide eventually. So when they commit suicide, I don't know where they dump the remains of them when they commit suicide. If, let me ask one of my father. Let me type to him today. I'm typing to him. Just hold on, because I'm not sure. I don't want to give you. Okay. I'm asking him now. Let me see if he's, well, he's typing back. Let me see. I'm asking one of my fathers. I don't know how they get buried. I know, well, they mentioned that the moment they get deposed, they commit suicide because just like I said, pé ọba ìran ọba kan kàkà kí wọ́n fojú rírì kúrì, wọ́n á ní pé kán ṣe ọmọkùnrin. Wọ́n á ní kán ṣe ọmọkùnrin. Ìran ọba kì í dúró. Òun náà máa ń sọ pé a gbọ́dọ̀ rí ẹ̀tẹ́ awo níta gbangba. Èèwọ̀. Kànràn kí wọ́n rí ẹ̀tẹ́ awo, wọ́n á ṣe ọmọkùnrin. Wọ́n á ṣe ọmọkùnrin. I don't think so. So my father said, no, it's very wrong because religion just came to us less than 1,000 years. My father said, well, it's very wrong for them to be buried by Muslim or Christian rites because religion just came to us less than 1,000 years. It's not part of our culture at all. The way they bury kings, I just cited that of our past predecessors to you. A typical one in Ife and Bini can never ever be changed. Oni Olubushe just happened 6 years ago, and all right was done according to Yoruba custom. You know, very deep things that religion is now taking away from us, unfortunately. But we usually bury them according to Yoruba custom. So I believe they bury them according to traditional right. Because the emergence of religion, you know, I don't know if I should say forceful or not forceful on us. I mean, it's just less than 1,000 years, like you said. So I'm not sure if they bury them Muslim or Christian way anymore. You know, we saw the Olubadan one, and I think he was buried in the Muslim way, and a lot of us are not happy about that. Because, you know, like I said, that there are some of them that are actually practicing traditionalists, and there are some of them that are actually just Oba. They are not traditionalists. I don't know how to put this. Because I know some Obas that I see go to church. Some of them, they remove their cap in the church, which is not supposed to be. So they bow to religion. I see, well, I don't know how to say this, but I do see, I don't know how to put this, but I have seen a few others, you know, in the church removing their cap in the church before. So I'm not sure if this is right or if it is not right. But then I have seen it happen whereby they remove their cap the moment they get in the church. And there are also some others from Egba, from Abeokuta that I have seen, you know, exhibiting their, how will I say this? Their Christianity belief. Yes, online. Even some from Osun State. I wouldn't lie to you. I don't know how to put this straight, but I do see a lot of other claim to be Christian. So I don't know if that is right or not. We have to ask some of our fathers to educate us on that. Hope I have been of help there. Because I honestly, there are some parts that you don't even want to talk about. No, Olufunmilayo, I have seen some of them taking off their cap and there's nothing on their head. Where? Am I right or wrong, people? I have seen some obas, they remove that cap. There's no white cap under their cap. They remove their part of their regalia, they take it off, and it's just their cap, their head you'll be looking at like this in the church. Yes. I have seen it before. How can an Oba enter the church and remove his cap and then everybody is seeing his head? Because I think they say it's an abomination for everybody to, I don't know. I would like to believe, well, it is, I would like to believe it is an abomination for everybody to be looking at an Oba's head. I don't know why, but then we have seen some Oba enter the church and then they remove their cap. Just because they went for one service or the other. They took off their cap and everybody can see their cap. And I think it is an abomination for people to look at their head. Well, that is how best I can describe this or say this. I don't know how else to put this, except that we have, you know, some of them online to educate us. I'm going to make this happen whereby we'll have somebody from the tradition that will be educating us and tell us, you know, the things that we don't know. However, it's not everything they're going to explain to us and, you know, shed light on, because for some traditional reasons, you know, what if he àwọn míì rú wa lójú? So I believe they will not want to say everything out gẹ́gẹ́ bí awo. Ẹ mọ̀ pé gbogbo nǹkan ara wo kọ́nà máa sọ lójú ọ̀gbẹ̀rì. ìdí tó ṣe rí bẹ́ẹ̀ àwọn awolóyè kò lè yọ́gbẹ́rì. So according to history you read, Olubadan was appointed by Aláàfin. They don't have a proper crown. Yes. Ibadan came out of Oyo. Yes. 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 So that was what we were being told. And you know, we have different versions of history also. Because when I was in school, I'm going to bring one of my history teacher online someday. Let me see. This is another one. You know, a picture of Aláàfin was here. It was sent to me, and they said, culturally and traditionally, the pillar of Oyo, Ọ̀rànmíyàn, will start. Aláàfin is sending messages, Gbedu drum, be beaten in all domains of his senior brothers, the 6 other sons of Odùduwà, Aláké, Oníkétu, Onísàbẹ̀, etc. Upon the hearing of the drum, they are expected to stay indoor for 7 days to mourn their junior brother, who by province owns all the palaces, and carry out some rituals. Upon completion of these rituals, they will paroko to Arole Oni. Arole will in turn perform a certain ritual rite at Ile-Ife by the staff of Ọ̀rànmíyàn, who will in turn send a emissary paroko to Bashorun in Oyo to close the curtains of the palace. It is after this that Bashorun has the right to the meeting of Oyomesi. Only Aláàfin is excluded from the meeting for obvious reasons, who will then inform them that the land is spoiled. It is the Oyomesi member that will in turn announce the spoiling of the land to territories and areas they oversee throughout the empire. Bashorun will also give permission to Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò to ensure that the empire must be secured and put all assures at alert because the land is spoiled. The land is spoiled. The process may take roughly 6 weeks before it comes to the general knowledge of the public. The announcements used to be a delicate process in the past, because some people must follow the king on the journey. It does not deserve to die alone, to travel alone. Oh my God. As such preparation of such that will travel with him has to be done with high level of emotional intelligence. Ní ìgbà ìwáṣẹ̀, a kì í tú ọ̀fọ̀ Aláàfin lálẹ́dẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́, ilẹ̀ bàjẹ́ lóde Ọ̀yọ́ ni wọ́n máa ń wí. Did you hear that? Guys, clap. They just sent me this one. This is very educative. Can I get a clap? Can you guys clap on this very one? You see what we were doing now? They say it is wrong. Ní ayé John wọ́n kọ Yorùbá síbẹ̀ wọ́n sọ pé the land is spoiled. Ilẹ̀ ti bàjẹ́ lóde Ọ̀yọ́. Lóde Ọ̀yọ́ ni wọ́n máa ń wí o, a kì í pọ́ bá kú. Traditionally, until the confirmation comes from the Prime Minister and all the right, you see, they say they are not even supposed to announce it until 6 weeks after his demise. So traditionally, until the confirmation comes from the Prime Minister and virtually all the rites, have been performed, to the stage of Bashorun informing Oyomesi, it is still a rumor. That is why you saw that that post that is written by his media head. It is still a rumor. So, guys, it is still a rumor. It is still a rumor. It is still a rumor. Despite the fact that he must have been to the knowledge of who and who throughout the empire. They must keep saying it is a rumor until they perform all the traditional rites. But now let me quickly tell you, and how that became is just the summary of how it used to be. Modernity has completely taken over everything that we do. They said everywhere is modernized. It's modernized, and the modernity is spoiling a lot of our tradition. Nobody follows Aláàfin on such a journey again. No Aroko anywhere again. Internet has taken over. Aláàfin leaves the palace nowadays. It is in the past that they will say, "On royo, on kanju, Aláàfin ore bikan." òun rọ́yọ́, òun kánjú, Aláàfin ò rebi kan. So ordinarily, it was virtually unimaginable for the land to be spoilt outside Oyo Palace. So you see, they say we are not supposed. Baba ò rebi kankan o. No wonder they are saying that. You pé Baba ò rebi kan o. Baba ò rebi kan. Let me ask my father this part again. With syllabus. There's one I don't understand, so let them explain it to me with syllabus. English online. I don't know. So that part where they say, oh, wọn kì í nǹkan tí mo sọ nìyẹn earlier on ṣá pé wọ́n sọ pé wọn kì í kéde ọ̀fọ̀ ọba because it's not supposed to go alone. Remember, they always have abobaku. Okay, so the òun re Ọ̀yọ́, òun kánjú, Aláàfin ò rebi kan. Òun rí Ọ̀yọ́, òun kánjú ló túmọ̀. Aláàfin ò rebi kan. So ara àwọn okay, òun rọ̀yọ́, òun kánjú. Me, I always ask my father, so I will test them and say, Kai, could you please put this out in syllabus for me? Because I don't. There are some that are just, they didn't separate the, they are writing it in all those old conch, Yoruba. I am very good at reading and writing, but then when they put it in all those conch, ways of how do I say this? Me nílé pé jáde because they omit some of the letters and they understand because that's the way it's been written in those days. Onre or they just be onre, the comma and Anyway, so that's it. Wọ́n ní kò yẹ kẹ́ máa sọ pé ọba ò rebi kankan o. He only transcended. He's coming back to reincarnate. Wọ́n kì í pọ́ bá kú ọba òkú o. Irú rẹ̀ mọ́ ń fà kú fà nílẹ̀ Yorùbá. Ó máa ń dá nǹkan lẹ̀ ni o. So let me read how in those days they have to announce the demise of a king to you. So they say culturally and traditionally, the announcement of the collapse of the pillar of Oyo, which is the Oromiyan, it will start with Aláàpínní sending messages, which is Gbedu drum, Ilu Gbedu. It will be beaten in all the domains of his senior brother. Aláàfin of Oyo, as birthed by the Oduduwa, is one of the Oduduwa son. So they say they have to beat a drum. Wọ́n lùlù káàkiri gbogbo ilẹ̀ Yorùbá bí tí gbogbo àwọn ẹ̀gbọ́n, àwọn àbúrò, of his senior brothers. He has 6 other sons. Oduduwa has 6 other. There's other sons of Oduduwa. Alake, Oniketu, Onisabe, Onikinikan of Popo, Onisabe of Isabe, Oni Ketu nìyẹn náà. Alákẹ́tù of Ketu. Oni Ìsàbẹ̀ of Ìsàbẹ̀. Oni Bini of Bini wà ńbẹ̀ kẹ̀. Ǹjẹ́ Ọ̀ràngún of Ìlágàn ò sí ńbẹ̀? Wọ́n sá pọ̀ sá ẹ mọ́ jẹ́ ń gbàgbé àyẹn àwọn ọmọ Odùduwà. So wọ́n ní pé they will now wọ́n á máa lu kinní yẹn ìyẹn gbẹ̀dú yẹn ìlú gbẹ̀dú wọ́n á lu káàkiri gbogbo ilẹ̀ Yorùbá tíbi tí gbogbo àwọn ẹ̀gbọ́n àwọn àbúrò the rest of his brothers where they are spreaded they will be drumming the drum káàkiri nígbà wọ́n bá lu gbogbo ẹ̀ káàkiri wọ́n á wá gbọ́ mọ́ ṣe máa gbọ́ nìyẹn pé ilẹ̀ pé the collapse of the pillar pé erin ti wó wọn ò ní sọ pé ọba ti wàjà o bẹ́ẹ̀ ni Ọ̀ràngún Léèlà wà ńbẹ̀ Onísàbẹ̀ ọ̀fẹ́ Onípòpò ọ̀fìpòpò wà ńbẹ̀. So wọ́n ti máa lù káàkiri nìyẹn pé ọba ti wàjà kò yẹ pé báwa ṣe ń bọ́ta sọ yìí wọ́n ní a ti fi ọ̀làjú wọ́n ní a ti fi ba ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ nǹkan jẹ́ pé kò yẹ kó rí bẹ́ẹ̀. So upon hearing the drum they are expected to stay indoor for 7 good days. None of his brothers of àwọn ọba yẹn gbọ́dọ̀ jáde. They have to stay indoors for 7 good days to mourn their junior brother, who by the province, which is that their junior brother that owns all the palaces and carry out, they are expected to stay indoors for 7 days. They should mourn their junior brother, who by the province owns all the palaces and carry out some rituals. Upon completion of these rituals, they will now paroko to Arole Oòduà, which is Arole Oni. Oni is the Arole Oòduà, who will in turn perform some certain ritual rites at Ile-Ife by the staff of Ọ̀rànmíyàn, that is in Ile-Ife. Oni will now perform the ritual rite. He will now in turn send emissary. He will paroko back to Bashorun in Oyo to close all the curtain of the palace should be drawn down. So I think when they draw the curtain down, this is when it will not be done on his people. It is after this that Bashorun has the right to the meeting of Oyomesi. Only Alakmeni will not be part of the meeting that the Bashorun will have with Oyomesi. He has been excluded from the meeting by history for obvious reasons. Who will then inform them that the land is spoiled? The land is spoiled. Ilẹ̀ ti bàjẹ́, òun ni wọ́n máa ń sọ, wọn kì í sọ pọ̀ bá kú. It is in the Oyomesi member. It is not the Oyomesi member that will in turn announce the spoiling of the land to the other territories and areas they oversee throughout the empire. Bashorun will also give permission to Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò to ensure that the empire must be secured and put all ẹ̀ṣọ́, àwọn ẹ̀ṣọ́, wọ́n wá kó wọn káàkiri, they all have to be at alert because ilẹ̀ ti bàjẹ́. So it is in this process, they say it may take roughly 6 weeks to mafi prepare funeral burial rites before it comes to the general knowledge of the public. The announcements used to be a delicate process in the past because some people must follow the king on the journey. He must not die alone. He must not travel alone. The king must not travel alone, so they have to follow him in the journey. As such, some preparation of such that will travel with him, it has to be done with high level of emotional intelligence. So you see, àwọn abobaku láti wà, they believe he must not go alone. That is where they always come up with abobaku, and they say they have to do this with emotional intelligence, who and who to pick to go with the king. So wọ́n ní nígbà ìwáṣẹ̀ a kì í túfọ̀ Aláàfin lálẹ́dẹ̀ Ọ̀yọ́, ilẹ̀ bàjẹ́ lóde Ọ̀yọ́, òun ni wọ́n gbọ́dọ̀ wí. Ilẹ̀ bàjẹ́ lóde Ọ̀yọ́ o, ìlú ni wọ́n fi ń ké, ìlú ni wọ́n fi ń sọ, a kì í túfọ̀ Aláàfin o. Traditionally, until the confirmation comes from the Prime Minister and all rites performed to the stage of Bashorun informing Oyomesi, the death will always remain a rumor because he is actually not dead. Despite the fact that he must have been to the knowledge of who and who throughout the empire. But let me quickly add that And now that this is just a summary of how it used to be. Modernity has completely taken over everything. Nobody follows Alaafin on such journey again. No Aroko anywhere again. Internet has taken over. Alaafin leaves palace nowadays. It is in the past that they will say, òun rọ̀yọ̀, òun kánjú, Aláàfin ò kúrebì kankan. So ordinarily, it is you that should visit Aláàfin. You should not go to visit anybody. It was virtually unimaginable for the land to be spoilt outside Oyo Palace. Ire o. La Lady. Oyo means the Oyo public domain. Wow. This is very educative. So I hope I have been making your day since I woke up 7 o'clock. I have been on this, educating people. So to those of you that disrespect our king, Ọba òṣèré fi ọba kì í ṣe ní àárín fi gbogbo ẹ̀yin tẹ́ máa ń tutukutu nípa wọn. Bẹ́ẹ̀ bá bully kan tán bá tún fi mí jẹ tún take over mi tẹ́ ti bẹ̀rẹ̀. Èmi tẹ́ parí ìkan sí. Ọlọ́mọ náà bá lé gbogbo yín. Èpè tẹ́ ń ṣe sórí ara yín náà generational curse ni. Ẹ fà àwọn bàbá yìí lẹ jẹ́ kán jayé wọn bó ṣe wù wọ́n bá ṣe bá nìyẹn. Ẹ fi wọ́n lẹ̀. Ayé ọlọ́ba ni wọ́n ń jẹ. Ẹ̀yin ni kẹ́ educate ara yín, ẹ̀yin náà ẹ padà lọ sí history yẹn lọ kà. Ẹ̀yẹ sọ̀sọ́kúsọ. Ọba fẹ́ yàwó mẹ́ẹ̀ẹ́dọ́gbọ̀n, ó fẹ́ mọ 12 years, ó fẹ́ mọ 18 years, ó fẹ́ mọ kinní kan. Ẹjọ́ lẹ fẹ́ rò. Bàbá àwọn kò fẹ́, òun lẹ gbọ́ ní ìkan lára àwọn ọba bí ọmọ 630. 630 just by one man. Wọ́n ní kódà ọba kan ti fẹ́ fi ààrẹ mú ẹ̀ tó jẹ́ ọmọ tíyàwó ẹ̀ mú wá láti ta. Ó ti fẹ́ fi jẹrí kó tó di pé ọmọ ẹ̀ obìnrin pa. Wọ́n ní ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ọba ni ò ní ọmọkùnrin in the past, torí ẹ̀ ni wọ́n ṣe máa encourage wọn pé kí wọ́n fẹ́ yàwó púpọ̀, especially àwọn méjì yẹn tí wọ́n jẹ́ top monarch. So kò sí nǹkan tẹ́ lè ṣe sí. Ẹ máa wojú tẹ́ bá fẹ́ bú àwọn ọba. Wọ́n ti ní pé ọlá ni wọ́n fi ń ṣe, àwọn èèyàn gan fún wọn lọ́mọ. Ẹlòmíì lè bí ọmọ látijọ́ tó ti bí kó sọ pé ọmọ yìí tó bá ti pé yọ ọmọ ọdún báyìí, bàbá òun lòun máa fi ta lọ́rẹ. Ẹ worú ọba yẹn sìn, wọ́n ti fọmọ míì ta lọ́rẹ láti bí ìyá ẹ̀ ṣe ń bí lọ́ ti sọ fún pé tó bá máa dàgbà ìyá ọba ni. Ọmọ bẹ́ẹ̀ lè pé 18-19 káwọn bàbá ẹ̀ dẹ̀ mú lọ sáàfin. Kọ́ ní bàbá ọmọ òòṣà aya òòṣà ni wọ́n dẹ̀ fi ta lọ́rẹ. Kí lẹ fẹ́ ṣe sí? Àwọn nǹkan tẹ́ ẹ̀ mọ̀ ń pa ẹ̀yìn kò fi social media internet tó dé ọ̀làjú, òun lẹ máa fi judge nǹkan from afar, nǹkan tẹ́ kàn rí tí ò yé yín. Ẹlòmíì ifá ló fẹ́ fún wọn, ẹlòmíì wọ́n yàn fún wọn ni, ẹlòmíì ó lè jẹ́ni tó mú òun náà kó so àmọ́ ẹ̀dẹ̀ kí yín lórí social media tẹ́ pé ẹ̀ ní limit, ẹ̀ ní boundary, kò sí nǹkan tẹ́ lè sọ. Ìdí tó bá ṣe fẹ́ gbọ́dọ̀ fẹ́ yàwó púpọ̀, òun lẹ ti gbọ́ yẹn. Bọ́ba kan bá tán obìnrin kankan pé ìwọ nìkan ni wọ́n kàn tán ẹ̀ ni. Nítorí ó ń láti fẹ́ wọn ní púpọ̀ kó produce ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ọmọkùnrin fún ìtẹ́ yẹn nítorí ẹ̀yàn ńlá, so that orúkọ yẹn ò ní kú síbẹ̀. So I hope this is educative enough. Let's learn to respect our traditional ruler, the family of the Adeyemis. We will not say it is sad, it is a good thing, because they say we should not say it is sad. He didn't die. He went to join his ancestors. So the Lord Almighty, He will comfort you all, and He will grant him Al-Jannah Firdaus. Should we say that? I don't know. Since they said he's not dead, any warning. Ile bàjẹ́ ni. The land has spoiled you. Only want to come winning you according to our non-learning. So God will bless and be with him in his journey, and the Oyo Kingdom will continue to reign, to have peace. So I'll see you guys later. I am so very tired and exhausted. I've not even had breakfast. I'm still sitting on my bed in my nightwear. So let me get off the bed and go find something to eat. God bless you. To all of you that listen to me, God bless you. To everybody that gave me start today, I appreciate you. In preparation to my birthday, don't forget, my birthday is just in like 2 weeks time. Oh, my birthday is coming in 2 weeks time. Okay. All right. Let's get prepared. Yes, it was a Muslim, but then he's a traditionalist. So just like they said that he doesn't have to be buried, because they said there was no religion in those days. Ọ̀làjú ló gbé religion wá bá wa pé so ìran bá kan kì í kò yẹ kí wọ́n máa sin wọ́n sí ṣọ́ọ̀ṣì àbí pé wọ́n sin wọ́n ní Muslim way. No, there's nothing like a Muslim, funeral rite or Christian funeral rite fún ọba. Ó ní bí wọ́n ṣe ń ṣe láyé jọ̀hún. Traditionally, they are not to be buried in the church or in the mosque. So we don't want our traditional narratives, change at all because of ọ̀làjú. Bó ṣe wà tẹ́lẹ̀ náà ló ṣe yẹ kó wà. Even though there's been a bit of twist, just like I do say pé ayé jọ̀hún náà máa sọ pé ọba ń bẹ́rí èèyàn. Kò sọ́ba ọkàn sì tó tún fẹ́ máa bẹ́rí ọba èèyàn ọba kò kú kí mú jẹ. Wọ́n á ní iyì lásán ni wọ́n fi orí bíbẹ́ ṣe. Kò sí kankan nu wọn tó fẹ́ forí bíbẹ́ ṣe yìí mọ́ gan ní ìsìn. Ṣóyè yín ọ̀làjú ti dé, gbogbo ẹ̀ ti ń ṣẹlẹ̀. So I would like to believe pé ọ̀làjú tó dé yẹn náà ló dé bá gbogbo involvement wọn pẹ̀lú religion, because some of them are actually, they are still Christians and Muslims at heart, even though they have made them king, they've been elected, to oversee that throne, that palace, that empire, whatever. But síbẹ̀ ọkàn wọn ẹ máa rí pé ìmí inú wọn tán bá sọ pé lórúkọ Jésù ẹ máa rí pé àwọn náà máa bá yín pè tán pé àmín. Anytime I'm in the palace and I hear àmín lórúkọ Jésù by a lot of them. And even when they call me on the phone and I talk to some of them, I say ní agbára Jésù ojú ẹ ò ní rí bí. When Ajero prays with you, Ajero will use Jésù to play. Some of them are actually, like Kabesi Akamo, he was a Christian, at some point, even though he has a Muslim name. Some of them, even Kabesi Eselu too. Eselu was a Christian. There are so many of them that were actually Christians. So what are they going to do because they become king? They can't just chuck their belief in the bin like that, even though they are traditional kings. Nínú ọkàn wọn, tí mi inú wọn bá dénú yàrá, ó lè jẹ́ orúkọ Jésù, of course, Ọlọ́run kan náà ló gbogbo wọn dẹ̀ sí, àti ẹlẹ́sìn àbáláyé o, àti Kristẹni o, àti Mùsùlùmí o, ṣe bí Ọlọ́run kan náà ni gbogbo wọn ń sìn. Wọ́n sì ní past wọn. They wipe away just because they become mothers. But God bless them. Yes, Titilayo, thank you. I remember when Ajero was playing he prays with Oruko Jesu. Ajero Fijero. So many of them like that. Tọ́wá láti gbogbo ibẹ̀ yẹn ẹ máa rí pé wọn kì í fi orúkọ Jésù wọn kì í fi ṣeré tán máa fẹ́ gbàdúrà òun náà fi ń gbàdúrà di ọ̀la. Lè rọ́bà àwọn Ìjẹ̀ṣà, Oǹdó, nǹkan Àkúrẹ́ yẹn kàn fẹ́ ṣàdúrà orúkọ Jésù ni. Ní orúkọ Jésù ṣàṣàlẹ̀ máa gbọ́ èyí tó máa sọ pé lágbára àwọn alálẹ̀, lágbára àwọn kìnnì kan, àwọn Ẹ̀gbá, àwọn Ìjẹ̀bú, àwọn ó ti yé yín, àwọn Ìbàdàn nǹkan àwọn iná máa sọ pé àwọn Ìbàdàn náà gan Muslim làwọn náà ń bẹ, àwọn most of them náà ẹ máa rí pé when Olúwo is a Muslim, a lot of them like that, they are Muslim. Baba can pray for Africa. Oh yes, you're right, Titilayo. So anyway, that's going to be all for this morning. I'll see you guys again when I see you. You all should have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy yourselves. And the Muslims, let's continue to observe Ramadan. It's going to be ended next week by God's grace. We're coming to the end of the Ramadan. Akbar Allah. Let me leave you all. I'm going to find something to eat. I've not eaten. You see why I don't have fasting today. Since yesterday, I didn't fast. No fasting today, no fasting tomorrow, and till Tuesday thereabouts. I'm supposed to be feeding well. But when you're fasting, there are times that you're not even used to the heavy food anymore. That's why I'm here talking. Anyway, bye-bye, everybody. Auntie Busi, Hirat Salau. Okay, you guys should take care. Bye-bye now.